What's up guys, Chaos Shinobi here. This is What If Naruto Has Ancient Dojutsu. Summary: the Sage of Six Paths is tired of watching the cycle repeat, so he interferes. If he knew what he was starting, he might have rethought that action. Hopefully the world survives without excessive amounts of trauma. Chapter 1: The Void. A single man sat watching the world he left so many years ago. He had hoped that things would turn out for the better. Hoped that his actions were the right ones, but as time went on it became clear how wrong he was. He had watched the reincarnations of his children leading armies to kill each other time and time again. He had hoped when the most recent incarnations have come together to build a home and bring an end to the constant war driven by the clan system that things would be better. But in the end the decision of those that came before him drove the two apart into the moment he saw now. Hashirama Senju stood tall over his opponent. His dark red layered armor hung off of him in tatters. The high collar was sheared off and his clothes underneath were ripped, cut and burned. He had the blade of his opponent's scythe sticking out of his side. Madara Uchiha was in no better shape. He was lying prone, clothes and armor in tatters, with his dark hair burned and matted to his body with blood. His eyes were still burning the crimson of his Sharingan, but with his chakra fading it wouldn't last. He had Hashirama's sword and double-ended glaive sticking from his back. The father of the two souls watched their final battle in what would come to be known as the Valley of the End. The man watched as the incarnation of Indra laid on the ground dead or dying, and Asur's incarnation limped away muttering apologies with tearful eyes. So many times this happened and the watcher was tired of it. It was time for change. He would have to interfere just this once to truly bring change to this cursed world. He breathed a new life into Madara, not enough for him to fight, but enough to survive for now. He would heal with time, he just needed a little bit of help. The watcher's eyes moved away from the scene and found Hashirama limping home. This battle had harmed him in more ways than he could know at the moment. His chakra network was damaged severely, and he only had a few years left as a ninja and a couple more after of life. He was an important part of this as well. The sage hated interfering with the free will of men, but at this rate the world would end with the next incarnation of his sons. He needed someone else involved, someone impartial to his sons' petty squabbles. He needed the incarnations to be as powerful as possible. It was necessary for what's to come. The world must know peace, even if he couldn't see it directly. 48 years later, Kushina Uzumaki was giving birth to her first child. In the room with her was Biwako Sarutobi and her apprentice Taji. So far everything was going well, except for the fact that her husband wasn't here. "Where is Minato?" she nearly screamed. Biwako gripped her hand. "He was called into a council meeting at the wrong time. He'll be here soon," Biwako assured her. Kushina cried in pain as her contractions got worse. "Alright, breath and push, Kushina. Little Naruto wants out and nothing is stopping him now." She did as she was told, and just when she started, Minato flashed into the room. "Sorry I'm late, things got a bit heated between Fugaku and Danzo," he called on his way over. He moved next to the bed and gripped his wife's hand, placing a gentle kiss on the back of it. "It's good you decided to finally show up," Kushina sassed him before letting out a scream of pain. Minato chuckled and comforted her as she gave birth to their son. He watched on as Biwako washed their child with care, and wrapped him up so he could be held. He looked toward his wife with a warm smile until a cold laugh pulled his attention back toward the wash basin. There was a thud as Biwako hit the ground unconscious. "Hello, Minato," a voice from his right called. He shifted his gaze and his eyes fell on a figure in dark red robes and a mask covering everything but his eyes. Minato was careful as he gripped one of his kunai tightly. He would have to be careful. "Well then, I suppose we can make this transaction simple. I'll give you back your child if you release the Kyuubi for me." Minato looked down at his wife and she frowned at him. "If I refuse?" he responded, and the masked man chuckled. In an instant he tossed Naruto into the air and readied a kunai to throw. Minato reacted and intercepted the weapon with one of his own. He used Hiraishin to flash over to his son and catch him before throwing his kunai toward his wife. It stuck into the bed frame next to her head and he flashed away again. Namikaze compound safe room. Minato placed Naruto in the crib he had prepared and flashed back to Kushina's side. Back with Kushina, Minato arrived and kicked the masked man clear from his wife. "You're too late, Minato, I've already won." The blonde looked back and saw that the Kyuubi's seal was missing. The masked man disappeared in a swirl coming from his eye. "Kushina, are you okay?" Minato called in a panic. "I'm fine, Minato. Is Naruto safe?" He nodded. "Good, whoever the hell that was took the Kyuubi. We need to get back into the village and prepare for the worst." Minato lifted her out of bed and disappeared. Namikaze compound safe room. Minato was about to lay Kushina in bed when the masked figure from before appeared again. "Oh come on man, do you have a bone to pick with me or something?" Minato groaned. "Well, not really, but I just thought you'd want to know a few things. First thing, You won't be able to seal the QB back into your wife, it would undoubtedly kill her. Second, I released the QB in the village. Lastly, fuck you. The masked man flipped Minato and Kushina the bird and started to swirl away. He wasn't fast enough. Minato blurred over and punched the man square in the chest. He gripped his wrist and used Hiraishin to pull the man out of the village into the woods. Wow, you're really rude, I mean flipping me off in front of my wife. I'll be sure to pay you back for that in a moment. The masked man chuckled. Well then, let's get this over with. Might as well kill you while I have the CH. In an instant Minato was next to him with a fist cocked back. The masked man ducked under the fist and aimed a kick at the blonde. Minato flashed away before reappearing and dropping a kick onto his opponent. It landed and the man bounced off the ground with a thud. Minato prepared another kick that passed right through the masked man. Oh, that was pretty cool. Mask-kun, wanna tell me how you did it? Minato heard a snarl in reply and Mask-kun charged, releasing chains from his sleeves as he moved. The battle was fierce, one-sided. Minato wasn't the Ondaime Hokage for no reason. Each move he made was deliberate and vicious. A well-placed kick, a perfectly timed jab, even his use of Hiraishin all came together to completely outclass the masked nin. On occasion one of Minato's attacks would pass through his opponent, but it didn't matter much. It was like he was fighting an inexperienced child. Minato slid under a swing of the chains and when they impacted a tree and split it in half. It was clear they weren't normal. He flipped backwards and threw one of his kunai at Mask-kun. Mask-kun in all of his confidence just let the weapon pass through him. Minato smirked and used Hiraishin. In an instant the yellow flash had a Rasengan ready to end this, but something stayed his hand. A mere moment of hesitation had given Mask-kun all the time he needed to escape and left Minato curious. His chakra signature felt familiar. Hidden Leaf Village. Minato arrived on the battlefield to find Kushina standing on top of the Hokage monument holding their son and controlling the chakra chains that were currently binding the QB. You can take a breather, you just gave birth to our child, Minato teased. The redhead gave him a deadpan look, but she was clearly trying to hide her smile. She took a deep breath and looked down at their son. It has to be him. Minato nodded. Do you think he'll be fine without us? She asked, tears prickling in her eyes. Minato walked over and kissed her head. Well, there is another option here. Kushina turned to her husband quickly. I can split and implant the QB's chakra between the three of us. We only need a portion, just enough to let us connect to him through the QB. Whoever attacked today wants to weaken the village, so we'll have to make them believe they did. Naruto will still be alone in the village, but we can still help him grow and love him. He had been thinking of reworking the QB seal for a while now. There were certain things that could have been changed for the host as well as the fox. Just because the nine tails had to be sealed doesn't mean he has to be completely uncomfortable. Suddenly a voice they never expected spoke to them. Will you two hurry the hell up? Whoever that masked bastard is, just tried to summon me away. The QB called. Their eyes shot over to the fox. His mouth wasn't moving but they could hear him. Damn it humans, get your shit in gear and end this. I refuse to be controlled by another pair of those damn Sharingan. I'd rather be sealed. Minato actually chuckled. Damn, who knew the fox wasn't a complete asshole? Were you being controlled this entire time? The blonde asked the fox. I hold no love for you humans, but I wouldn't try to wipe out a village for no good reason. I'm old and tired. Just make sure I have room to stretch and nap inside of the seal and I'll be fine. The QB called out. Kushina and Minato shared a look and nodded. They had to at least get the fox someplace he couldn't be summoned. Okay, I'm gonna take us all to the sealing room under our home. The time-space seals down there should keep Furface down there. Just because your wife is holding me down doesn't mean I can't flatten you. The fox called with a menacing flick of his tail. Okay fine, lighten up, why don't you? It won't kill you. Minato pouted. With a flare of chakra, Kushina, the fox, and himself flashed away. When they arrived in the sealing room, Minato fell to one knee. Shit, that took a lot out of me. Okay, let's make this quick. Kushina, grab that sealing scroll I've been working on. Look it over while I get the supplies. If you can see anything that needs improvements, plan for them now. She ran off and did as she was told while the nine-tailed fox watched them work. Kami, Minato, how the hell did you even think this up? This is a functioning two-way chakra seal. This could give the container the ability to let the tailed beast roam free at will. QB's ears perked up at that. Well, that's the point. Trapping the fox for the rest of his life serves no purpose. Eventually he'll escape and he will probably be pretty pissed about his treatment. Might as well give him a chance to enjoy himself. Minato glanced at the fox only to receive a huff in response. Well, so far it looks good, but the chakra flow rate should be tweaked. Other than that, it's perfect. She got to work on the changes and Minato went over to draw the seal array over her chakra network. When he was done she did his. Kushina held Naruto as they began working on him. "Okay Kyuubi. I know we really haven't spoken much or even gotten along, but please keep him safe. He'll treat you better than I could have, I'll make sure of it. He'll make a good partner and he'll treat you as an equal." Kushina promised. "You can't know that yet, but if you are right. If he treats me well, I'll help him as best I can." Kyuubi responded. "Well then, it's about time we get this over with." Minato called out and slammed his hands down onto the ground. A sealing array spread over the floor until everyone was on top of it. Seal. The Kyuubi became pure chakra and split into 3 parts, too much smaller than the third. A moment later the chakra took hold in its hosts and settled, leaving Minato and Kushina with whisker marks. Naruto on the other hand got the whisker marks as well as sharper teeth, slightly pointed ears, a red-orange hue to the tips of his hair and fingernails that came to a point. "Well shit, maybe we should have thought over the consequences of the chakra seal a bit more." Minato deadpanned. "Look, it's too late now. We need to get Sarutobi and Kakashi here soon. If anyone, those two have to know what happened here." Minato nodded and flared his chakra to signal his location to the third and his student. Sarutobi and Kakashi arrived on scene and saw them together looking down at their son. "What the hell is going on here, Minato? How did the fox escape?" Sarutobi demanded. "Pregnancy weakened the seal. Someone found my location and freed the tailed beast from me while I was too weak to stop him. Too late to change that now, so listen up. They targeted us specifically, they want us weak for some reason, so we'll let them believe we are. Me and Minato are leaving the village. The official story is that we died today." Kushina explained. "We're leaving Naruto in the village, he's in your care, though we do still have a link to him. We have enemies that would do anything to see him dead. If my heritage became common knowledge it would only get worse. He's going to come to you and ask for the truth, he'll tell you exactly when he's ready. Please do your best by him, we can't be there for him right now so we're relying on you." Minato continued. "I'm sorry to hand you back the hat so soon, old man, but the paperwork is killer on the wrists. Kakashi, stop living in the past. You didn't fail your team and you didn't fail me. You did all you could and you suffered enough." The two men nodded. "Sensei, I'll make sure he becomes a ninja you'll be proud of." Kakashi promised. "As will I, Minato, just be sure to write on occasion. I know how scatterbrained you two can get when you are alone together." Kushina at least had the decency to blush. Minato on the other hand just put on a sly grin. Yeah, old-timer. I'll make sure to write every chance I get. Last thing though, there's a scroll in the desk at the office with Naruto's name on it. When you tell him everything, give it to him. He's going to need it." Together Minato and Kushina disappeared in a yellow flash. In a single night the Hidden Leaf lost its Hokage and an S-class ninja. To the rest of the world it would seem like a while until they recovered. 4 years later, Naruto Uzumaki was running. This wasn't an unusual occurrence, whether it be running from angry villagers, or Anbu after one of his pranks. He was often running. He was really good at it actually. He was faster than any of the civilians and a good amount of the Jonin in the village. This was different though. The sun wasn't out and there was no one to witness the heinous things this mob had planned. He was used to this. The cold looks, the harsh words, the throw objects and rejection as a whole. Still, this was an attempt at lynching. It was his birthday, and his first one without the little protection the orphanage provided. He was thrown out months ago and before today he felt better off. Now that the Kyuubi brat didn't have a place to hide, the villagers who held a grudge against him for no reason sought his end. Still, he was having fun taunting the crowd of mostly civilians while keeping just in front of them. He was leading them around by the nose using his knowledge of the village's alleys and shortcuts to his advantage. The blonde cut down an alley and slid through a hole in the fence. He broke back into a run after flipping his pursuers the bird. He was in the clear now and more than having fun until he felt something dark approaching him quickly. He turned just in time to catch a kunai in his forearm. He howled in pain and rolled under the next few that came his way. He jumped clear and caught eyes with the 3 Chunin chasing him now. His eyes widened as one was making hand seals. Katan, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. Small fireballs flew through the air along with a sizable amount of ninja tools. The blonde felt a tug at the back of his head, a draw on his chakra reserves. His eyes began to burn and he could feel the tears running down his face. He took a breath that he thought might be his last until the world slowed. He could count each and every attack that was heading his way and could guess the trajectories. He could escape, but it wouldn't be unharmed. There was a gap in the attacks, just enough for him to squeeze through, but he would be close enough to 2 fireballs to get burned. He crouched low and launched himself forward. The closer he got, the clearer his opening was. He jumped and tucked his arms and legs in close. He felt the fireballs get close enough to burn and tried to ignore the pain. Midair he grabbed one of the kunai and deflected a kunai that hid in the shadow of another one. He landed into a roll as his leg buckled. He dragged himself to his feet and glanced at the stunned ninja trying to kill him. The leader shook out of his stupor first and rallied the other two. "What the hell are you doing? Kill him!" he ordered. Naruto pulled himself to his feet and ran into the darkness. There was very little safety to be found nearby. Still he went to the area he was calling home. He stayed out of sight and rushed to the only safety he had. The Forest of Death. Minutes later, Naruto finally made it to the small cave he'd been living in for the last few months. He still had grip on his kunai as he tucked into his safe haven and rested to heal his wounds. He was growing tired, but he needed to stay alert for a little while longer. There was always the chance that he was followed and he had to react fast or he would die. Unfortunately he couldn't stay awake longer as he was dragged into his own mind. Little did he know someone was gathering outside of the cave plotting his end. In Naruto's mindscape, the blonde child found himself in an unfamiliar setting. It seemed like an aqueduct or a sewer or some sort. The fact that he was sitting in water that came up to his ankles reinforced that idea. He stood up and looked himself over only to find himself completely healed. Naruto felt drawn further into the structure and only stopped when he was standing in front of a massive gate blocking off an area of darkness. Leaning against that gate was a blond man wearing a long white coat that ended in flames at the end. He had brilliant blue eyes that matched his own. "Hi Naruto." He spoke softly. The younger blonde looked at the man strangely. "I don't think Kai is going to cut it there. How about you tell me where I am, why I'm here and who you are?" Naruto replied. The stranger grinned despite himself. "Well, I'm Minato Namikaze, your father. This is your mindscape, and you're here because you seem to have tapped into much more of your own chakra and the foxes than you should be able to." Naruto took a step back and really looked at the man in front of him. Sure, they had the same colored hair and eyes, but the Yamanaka clan also had blonde hair and the power to enter minds. What sold it to him was the warm smile on his face. It was so much like his own it scared him. It wasn't the fake one he put on as he walked through the village. It was really a truly genuine smile that he reserved only for those few people who treated him like a person. "You really are my dad. But you're the fourth Hokage. That means you were the one to kill the Kyuubi? Oh my god, my dad is so cool." Minato sat back and watched as his son gushed over all of his accomplishments until a booming voice silenced him. "Who said this veil killed me?" A pair of glowing red eyes called from the cage Minato leaned against. "Well, hey Grumpy Pants, did you miss me?" Minato teased. The eyes drew closer until a massive red fox showed his face. "You didn't even capture me, Kushina did that. What exactly did you do again?" The massive fox taunted. Minato cried anime tears. "Hey, no need to kick me over my lowest moments, fox. Look Naruto, I sealed this big ugly furball inside you so you could be strong and protect the village while I'm away. Though I wasn't exactly expecting you to tap into Furface's chakra this early. Seriously, what the hell happened in the village? Look, I'm getting sidetracked and there's a lot we need to cover." Naruto stopped staring at the fox and fixated on his father. "You need to know more about me if you hope to know why things happened the way they did. Not only was I the fourth Hokage, I personally led the quick reaction force of the Hidden Leaf during the Third Shinobi War. It's probably what caused the man to attack the village and free the fox. It's also why no one can know of your parentage. Your mother and I were both strong and well wanted throughout all of the other hidden villages. You must err on the side of caution. From here on forward, me and your mother will do our best to guide you from our end," Minato continued. "First thing first, I need to see how your chakra flows into your system. I won't be able to change anything, but I hope Furface can give you a hand with that. Flow chakra through your entire body, from the tips of your toes through the top of your head." Naruto concentrated until he felt the familiar flow of chakra into his body. He looked at his father only to see a surprised expression on his face. "Naruto, your eyes." Minato choked out. He wasn't wrong to be concerned. Naruto looked down at the reflective pool of water to look at his eyes. They were a deeper blue now, almost a royal azure color. Swirling around the pupil was two tomoe in each eye. I don't even know how that's possible. You shouldn't have the Sharingan, and I'm sure the Sharingan has always been red. I'm gonna have to do some research on my end." "Dad, is everything alright?" Minato nodded. "Yeah, you're just more special than I thought you were." The world around them distorted just barely. "Okay Naruto, you're waking up soon and Furface here still needs to talk to you. This won't be the last time you see me and hopefully soon you'll meet your mom too. Be safe and treat the furball fairly. He gets moody if you don't." The fox growled and tried to smash the man with a tail. "Oh, speaking of, go to Sarutobi and tell him we've spoken. Show him your eyes too. He'll give you what I left to you. Hide your strength, only show it in times of need. The fewer connections that can be made between you and I the better. There's only one thing left to tell you now. Minato paused and smiled wide. "I love you, son." Minato's eyes flashed bright red for a moment and he was gone. The connection had been severed. Naruto had held back his tears this long, but now his father was gone. He broke down under the watchful eye of the nine-tailed fox. "I love you too, Dad. I promise I'll make you proud." He looked up at the fox and the demon nearly recoiled. "Okay, Fox, we should probably talk." Inside Naruto's mindscape, the blonde looked up at the massive fox and spoke first after his previous declaration. "What's your name?" The fox raised an eyebrow. "My name is known throughout the land, even you must know it, child." The blonde shook his head. "Those are titles, not names. QB, nine-tailed fox, the great fox demon, none of those sound like names. So tell me yours, you already know mine." The fox grinned down at the child. You may just entertain me yet." "Fine, child, the name is Kuruma. It seems your mother was correct about you, boy. After you speak to your cage, I'm going to show you a few things. I refuse to have a weak container." The fox bellowed down at the child. "Well then, if that's the case, how do I get out of here? We can get to know each other later." The fox grinned and tapped a claw onto the ground. The world shifted and went black for Naruto until his eyes came open to the view of the cave. He took a deep breath and his lungs filled with smoke. He looked around in a panic and saw the smoke pooling around the roof of the cave. He crawled his way out of his hiding place and rolled out into the open. He was about to run for the entrance when he saw it was blocked completely by burning wood. "Shit, Kuruma, I need to get out of here. Any ideas?" Naruto called. "Yeah, kid, I have an idea, but we're going to have to synchronize our chakra. Since it's the first time, it won't be the most pleasant thing." Kuruma replied. "Well then, let's give it a try. It's either that or I suffocate." "How do we do this?" "Sit in the lotus position and flow your chakra into your core. I'll do the same. On my end, I'm going to regulate the flow of chakra into your system. Once it's done, you should be able to make a new exit or charge through the main one." Naruto started following the instructions. It was a lot like flowing chakra into his body, but in reverse. He could feel a slight burn under his skin spreading from his stomach. He was sure this was going to be the worst of it. Oh, how wrong he was. "Okay, kid, I'm starting now." The pain multiplied and Naruto writhed in pain. The veins all over his body bulged from the strain of attempting to support the flow of chakra. "It's almost over, kid, only a little more." The pain began subsiding and Naruto felt more than normal. He felt powerful. He jumped to his feet and straightened himself. "Alright, kid, right now you have full access to about 1/100th of my power. It is not much, but it's more than enough to fight off a small group of Chunin with enough effort." Kuruma explained. "Kick ass, I'm taking the front door if you don't mind." Kuruma chuckled and Naruto charged the barricade. Naruto felt something odd and looked behind him and saw a single fox tail swishing calmly. "Try to flick your tail at the barricade. It's just like flexing your muscles." Naruto tried it and a gust of wind ripped through the air in front of him. It cut a path through the barricade and left a path for Naruto to jump through. He skidded to a stop and heard the gasps of shock from the people standing there to kill him. "I told you he was the damn demon fox. Look at that tail and those ears. He's getting stronger, we need to kill him now," the seeming ringleader shouted. Naruto crouched on all fours and looked at his surroundings. He felt something odd. It was emotions that didn't belong to him. He felt their rage and fear all focused on him, and oddly enough it made him feel stronger. Get him before his power grows more. Rocks, kunai and shuriken sailed through the air at the blonde, and with a single swish of his tail they all fell away from him. Naruto growled and his eyes became feral slits. He looked over the crowd with those predatory blue eyes and readied himself to attack. "Okay, tone it down there, kid. I can't have you killing villagers if it can be avoided at all. It'll just make them hate you more," Kuruma advised. The blonde shook his head to try to clear his thoughts until a kunai sailed at him and pinned one of his hands to the ground. A feral roar cut through the air and Naruto began his assault. With ease he tracked his attacker by the smell on the kunai and proceeded to rip one of his arms off. The howls of pain were only tuned out by the screams of terror and retreating footsteps. The blonde tossed the man away and glared at him. A moment later he turned and ran off into the distance. Edge of the village. Naruto came to a stop and fell to his knees. Tears spilled down his face and traced lines in the drying blood on his face. "You didn't kill him, Naruto. He's alive, but his life as a ninja is most certainly over. You defended yourself, nothing more, nothing less. They meant to kill you there." The demon fox's words did nothing to soothe the child. He had injured an ally and in his eyes, he had committed an unforgivable sin. "I shouldn't have done that. They're my allies, I shouldn't have." He froze, something was off in the air. He took a deep breath and his eyes shot over to something he couldn't see just yet. He felt fear from someone over there, along with pride and greed. Chakra flowed into his eyes and his vision enhanced as the tomoe became clear in his still slit eyes. He saw a group of ninjas standing in a clearing with a sack that seemed to squirm in protest. Naruto crouched and flowed chakra into his legs. Those ninja didn't smell like Konoha, they smelt like a storm. They aren't allies, I can hurt them. Without another sound he blurred from sight and only came to a stop when his claw-like nails had ripped through the chest of the ninja holding the bag. What the hell is that thing? One of the ninja shouted. There was no hesitation from Naruto as his eyes locked on his newest target and pounced, leaving his first victim to bleed out. With each movement Naruto got more comfortable with his new form and fell to all fours. With this comfort came more natural movements, and more natural movements made him more efficient. Kill that thing before it gets any more of us. One of the nin orders. The blonde closed the distance in an instant and ripped into the next ninja. Kunai grazed him as he moved, but the pain was ignored in favor of bloodlust. He was a natural killer, and by the end of tonight he would be steeped in the art of it. Each swing of his claws crippled or killed a ninja. A leg ripped off and thrown to the side, a throat ripped out, an arm through the chest. Fear filled the air along with the scent of blood until only a single ninja was left alive. Naruto stalked closer, his breath leaving an almost unseen mist in the air. He was about to end the threat at once when a voice echoed in his head. Leave him alive, someone will have to be interrogated for this. Naruto stopped his stride and raised a fist. A single blow knocked him out and left Naruto to help the person trapped in the bag. He approached and ripped the bag open, leaving him looking at a pair of beautiful pale lilac eyes. He stopped when he noticed the change in scent. She wasn't afraid anymore. Hi, Naruto, are you okay? He asked after a minute of silence. The girl just wordlessly nodded and sat herself up. Thank YUFF for helping me. I don't know why they wanted me. B, but if not F for you, I don't think anyone W would have made it in tea time. Naruto stood and offered her a hand. It's not a problem, I couldn't just let them take you. She took his hand and he pulled her to her feet. Let's get you back to the village, give me a second, I have to grab something. Naruto let go of her hand and felt a chill creep up his spine. He ran back over to the ninja he knocked out and gripped him by the ankle. With ease he dragged the man over to the girl and took her hand again. Sorry, I have to bring him back so the Hokage can find out what he knows. She looked back at the man and stepped closer to Naruto. It's fine, I know why you won't let anything happen to end me. Naruto gave her his brightest smile and together they walked back to the village. Naruto, I'm going to lessen my flow of chakra into your system when you get closer to the village. When you get a better handle on your own chakra, I can show you how to shapeshift to hide the extra feature while using my power. Naruto nodded and continued on his path. When they reached the edge of the village, Naruto felt the flow of chakra wane and he compensated with his own. He continued to drag the man behind him, but it was a bit harder than before. He stopped when a patrol of ninjas surrounded them and aimed their weapons at him. Lady Hinata, are you okay? One of the men with eyes similar to her asked without removing his glare from the blonde. It was only then that Naruto realized he never asked her name. Hinata. She turned to him with a slight blush. That's a beautiful name, it suits you. Her blush lit bright red and she hugged him close and buried her face into his shirt. He removed his bloody jacket on the walk and tied it around his waist. How dare you address Lady Hinata so casually? The same man barked. He reached out to pull the blonde away when a pair of slit blue eyes turned on him. Naruto hugged Hinata back for a moment before separating. I rescued Hinata from some ninja in the woods. I captured one of them, he's kinda heavy if one of you doesn't mind. For the first time they noticed the ninja with the Kumagakure headband being dragged behind the children. A squad of Anbu dropped between the ninja and the children. We are taking these two to Lord Hokage. Hyuga, send word to your clan head to meet them at the Hokage's tower. Without another word the Anbu grabbed the three in their circle and shunshined away. When they stopped they were in front of the third Hokage and Naruto felt absolutely sick. He let go of Hinata's hand and grabbed the closest trash can. He emptied his stomach and sat down on the floor. First time on a sunshine ride, yeah, I remember my first. Don't worry, it'll go away soon. The Sandaime Hokage called from his seat. Now, from the report that hit my desk a few seconds ago, it seems Naruto saved the Hyuga heiress on his own. Now this comes at an even greater surprise, seeing as the two clans hailed as the greatest trackers in the village couldn't even find her. His words came the moment Hiashi Hyuga walked into the room. The man seemed impassive, but Naruto could feel his shame and anger. Lord Hokage, you called for me. The clan head bowed when he entered. Yes, I did. It seems that your daughter was rescued by this young man. On top of that, he brought back one of the assailants alive. Do you mind checking him for any hidden weapons or poisons? It would be bad if he took his own life before the IT department got their hands on him. Hiashi nodded and activated his bloodline. He has a false tooth in his mouth, It's the third molar on the right side. One of the Anbu stepped over and removed the tooth with ease before smelling the poison. Hemlock, his tongue would have swollen his airway shut in seconds. Sarutobi nodded and waved his hand, sending a dozen different orders to the Anbu in the room at once. They all scattered soundlessly and left the Hokage alone with the two Hyuga and Naruto. "Well then, I suppose you owe Naruto here your thanks. He saved your daughter when your own clan couldn't even with your all-seeing eyes." Hiyashi's anger spiked again. "On my end I see this as behavior to be rewarded. I'll have to think that over. I hope I can give our hero a worthy reward." The third Hokage seemed to be hamming things up more than Naruto would have expected. He had only spoken to the man a couple times in his life and nothing that endeared him to the village leader. "Lord Hokage, I'm not sure what makes you believe this child could have single-handedly." The Sandaime raised a hand. In an instant the Anbu Assassination Forces Captain shunshined into the room. "Yes, Lord Hokage." "Dog, please do tell me what your job tonight was." The Anbu stood tall and bowed. "I was assigned to protect one of the village's assets due to the presence of foreign dignitaries and ninja in the village. In the time watching the asset I witnessed him being attacked by villagers, chased into a cave and nearly burned alive in his sleep." Dog began. "Before I could intervene, the asset made his way out of the trap set for him and defended against villagers and ninja. Some of which should have been attending to security duties, 4 of which would have been in the direct path between the kidnappers and the Hyuga compound." Hiyashi bristled, but stayed silent. "When the asset made sure the threat on his life was eliminated, he continued out of the village, most likely to be alone. He seemed to be talking to someone when he stopped, only to suddenly be alerted by something and charged off." Sarutobi had a mild grin on his face as he listened. "When he reached the clearing with the assailants, he killed one immediately and cut the others down one by one. When he was about to kill the last one, I interfered and suggested he leave him alive for interrogation." Naruto jumped from his seat on the ground. "That was you. I knew your voice sounded familiar." Dog nodded to the child and turned back to Sarutobi. "Well then, Hiyashi, are you saying one of my most trusted Anbu agents is lying to me?" The pale-eyed man stayed silent. "Well then, I suppose some words should be exchanged." Hiyashi turned toward Naruto and bowed. "Thank you for saving my daughter. I'm eternally grateful for your help in this matter." Naruto rubbed the back of his head and bowed in return. "I just did what was necessary as an aspiring ninja of this village. I'm just happy I could get Hinata-chan home safely." The young girl in the room blushed brightly. Hiyashi actually donned a soft smile. "You're well-spoken for someone your age. How have you learned so much so quickly?" the Hyuga patriarch questioned. Naruto flinched and everyone noticed. "Before I was kicked out of the orphanage, the mother would lock me in the study alone during free and play times." 4 people in the room were utterly shocked for plenty of reasons. "Naruto, what do you mean kicked out of the orphanage?" Hiyashi asked. The blonde shrugged. "A few months ago the mother packed all of my things and put me outside. She locked the door and told all of the kids to ignore me if I came back. I've been living in the forest of death for a while now." 3 separate pulses of killing intent ripped through the air and nearly suffocated the civilian receptionist outside. The Hokage waved his hand and one of his personal guards went off to handle the situation. "Lord Hokage, it seems there must be something done about Naruto's living situation. Might I suggest one of the vacant ninja homes close to the academy and my own compound? There are a few I've been scouting for any possible expansion in the future." "I agree, Hiyashi, you would be my primary choice of guardian for the young man as things stand, but given his situation you must remain publicly neutral." Hiyashi nodded. "Well then, find a suitable place and bring me the information in the morning. I'll make sure it's prepared." Hiyashi nodded. "Perfect. You and Hinata are dismissed. I'm sure she's tired after the ordeal she went through." The young girl nodded and bowed before approaching Naruto. She hugged him quickly and whispered a soft thank you before following her father out. Once the room was clear, Naruto turned around and was reminded of what his father told him before. "Old man Hokage, there's something I need to show you, but we have to be completely alone." The Sandaime Hokage looked at the boy with a smile. "We are alone." He lied. He was curious if Naruto could actually tell if there was someone in the room. "No, we aren't. There are 3 ninja in the roof as well as a 4th masked ninja in the curtain behind you." Sarutobi's eyes widened and 6 kunai pincushion the ninja hidden in the curtain. Naruto flinched, but kept any other emotions to himself. "How did you know he was there, Naruto?" the Hokage questioned. "I can feel people's emotions. It's something I could always do, but it's gotten stronger after tonight. He was trying to mask his hatred for me and you." Sarutobi nodded and waved his hand. His 3 bodyguards dropped into the room and carried the still-living intruder away. "Well, it seems I owe you even more thanks tonight. For now, what is it that you need to show me?" Naruto shut his eyes in concentration for a moment before sighing in relief and pulling them open again. The Hokage was confused for a moment. He didn't understand what the blonde was trying to show him until he met the child's eyes. He sucked in a rapid breath and tried to rein in his emotion. "Naruto. You have the Sharingan, but it's different. Your eyes are blue, and they're fully matured. What happened to you?" Naruto was more than a little confused at this. What did the Hokage mean by fully matured? "Naruto, I think I know what your father meant all those years ago. I have something for you." Sarutobi pulled out a single scroll he kept sealed in the Hokage's desk. "Your father left this for you. It's pretty late now, so you can stay with me. In the morning we'll get you settled into your new home and I'll answer any questions you have after reading that." Naruto nodded and opened the scroll. "Naruto, I'm sorry I'm not there to say these words to you in person, but I believe you'll be the change this world needs. I entrusted this village to you and Sarutobi because if I remained it would only bring more problems to you. You have to hide yourself, no one can know who I am to you. You are my hope for the future and one day soon I hope we can reunite properly. Inside this scroll is everything I can leave to you. There are seals on this scroll that can only be unlocked when your chakra reaches a certain level. Some may seem out of reach for you, but knowing your mother and the furball in your gut, you'll be there in no time. Live well and get strong. Oh, and tell Sarutobi to assign Kakashi as your teacher and guardian ASAP. He needs you as much as you'll need him." Naruto felt the tears in his eyes stinging as he finished reading. He couldn't help the smile that covered his face as he looked up at the Hokage. "Gramps, I don't think I have many questions just yet, but maybe soon." Sarutobi smiled back at him and nodded. "Well, for now you're sleeping here in my private bedroom. In the morning we should have a new place set up for you as well as a protector." Naruto nodded and remembered something from the scroll. "My dad said to assign Kakashi as my guardian. He said he would need me as much as I need him." The third laughed and nodded. "It seems you still have a leg up on me, Minato." Sarutobi led the young blonde off to the side and into his private bedroom. "Okay, get some rest. I'll wake you after the preparations are made." Naruto laid in the bed and got comfortable as Sarutobi left. The blonde took this time to go talk to Kurama inside Naruto's mindscape. "Okay Kurama, now's a good time to talk." The fox sauntered into view and tilted his head down to look at the blonde. "Yes, my weak little vessel, it's time we had that talk. I'm Kurama the QB and the most powerful of the tailed beasts. You on the other hand are my embarrassment. You should be the strongest of the Jinchuruki. Even at your age you should be much stronger than you are." Naruto hung his head shamefully, feeling ashamed at his own weakness. "Lift your head, boy. This is no fault of your own. You were left with teachers that neglect your growth in favor of others and no one has truly nurtured your potential. They fear the power you may possess and only want to use you as a tool." Naruto looked up feeling something new in his chest. Someone had acknowledged him, acknowledged what he could become. "Do you really think I can become powerful?" The hope in his voice reminded Kurama of himself shortly after his birth. A smile spread across his face. "Of course you can, you have me on your side." Naruto ran toward the gate happily and extended a small fist through the bars. "Well, I guess that means we're partners," the blonde called up to the massive beast. Kurama smirked and extended his own fist out, gently bumping it against the child's. Naruto jumped high, cheering that he wasn't alone anymore. "Okay brat, now there are a few things that need to be addressed before I can start your training under me. Your chakra was improperly unleashed when you did it on your own, so your chakra flow is stifled. It's something we can fix, but it'll take a bit of time the normal way." Naruto looked at the fox. "You said the normal way, is there a faster way?" Kurama grinned. "Perceptive little shit, I'll give you that. Yes there is, but it's a bit overkill. It'll be us mixing our chakra and pushing it through your system to widen it. It will be short but your chakra control will suffer for a short while after." Naruto nodded. "Faster way it is, my chakra control isn't that great yet anyway so I'm not losing much. When do we start?" Kurama grinned. "Right now, it's the same concept we used before, but this is letting it flow slowly from your core outward." Naruto fell into lotus position outside of his mind and started. When their chakra mixed properly, Naruto let it flow out just like Kurama described. Everything went smoothly and Naruto's chakra network was in perfect condition. "Okay kid, now we're going to start a simple chakra control training. The first thing is chakra sticking. You're going to flow your chakra into an object so it sticks to your skin. Once you have mastered that, we'll move on to the next step." Naruto was more than ready and grabbed a sheet of paper from nearby. It was going to be a long night. The next day just after 1 p.m., Sarutobi went to wake up Naruto after things had taken a bit too long to get his home set up. "Naruto, it's time to get up, we have to get you over to your new place." The third Hokage was surprised to see Naruto awake and practicing chakra control at a level far above anything he could have expected. He was using the chakra balancing technique on 7 sheets of paper at once. "Oh hey Gramps, sorry, I woke up early and couldn't get back to sleep." The blonde lied smoothly. "That's pretty advanced chakra control there, I'm impressed." Naruto smiled before standing up and walking over to Sarutobe. "Well, I read about this method in an old academy notebook and I've been practicing for a few weeks now." Naruto was a little put off by how easy lying came to him, but Kurama explained that it was an essential skill for a ninja to have. "Well then we're going to have to pause your training here for a while until we can get certain things sorted out." Naruto nodded and the sheets of paper fell off him. "Okay, now someone's ready to meet you outside. He may be a bit distant at first, but give him a chance, he'll warm up." The Hokage warned. Naruto rolled his eyes and walked out first only to be met with a silver-haired Cyclops. "Naruto, this is Kakashi." "Kakashi, you already know Naruto." Kakashi just grunted and avoided looking at the blonde. "So that's what Dad meant. You really do need me?" The Cyclops turned to Naruto with shock on his face. "Whatever you're feeling all of that guilt over, it was a long time ago. You're practically soaked in those feelings. Let it go, man, you'll be much better for it." Kakashi finally looked at the child properly and couldn't help but see his teacher's smug grin on his face. For the first time in a long time Kakashi felt something closer to centered. He smiled under his mask as tears streamed from his eyes. Sarutobi watched with a knowing smile. He guessed this was going to happen and he was more than happy to let this play out. "Okay young men, you two will be living together from now on. I've found you a home to live in with a private training ground and plenty of room on site. Kakashi, you'll be training Naruto. Teach him everything you know, he has to be ready for the worst." Kakashi straightened up and bowed in affirmation. "You're the best teacher for him in another aspect as well. Due to his bloodline," Sarutobi said, pointing to his own left eye. Kakashi's eye grew wider and he looked down at the blonde for a moment. "Yes, he is like you, but his is natural. Now I'll let you two go. I have a few hours of council meetings to deal with today." Naruto ran over and hugged the old man. "See you later Gramps, don't forget to come see me every now and again." Sarutobi hugged him back and promised he would. They separated and he watched the pair leave his office. Little did he know he had just set into motion the beginnings of the strongest ninja his village had ever created. 3 years later, Naruto had just finished another day of training. Now that he was done, he would be going to meet Itachi, Shisui, and Sasuke. He and Sasuke had an encounter a couple years ago and it turned into a friendly rivalry. Naruto was really far ahead and only showed a portion of his skill to motivate Sasuke to be better. Along with that, he taught Sasuke skills and techniques that he learned from Kakashi. It was a couple months after that Sasuke introduced Naruto to Itachi and in turn Shisui. The pair quickly took a liking to the blonde and were happy with the influence he had over the young Uchiha. Naruto really enjoyed being around the Uchiha 3 for a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest was how much he got to learn about his eyes. He was getting stronger by leaps and bounds and his control over his eyes was near masterful. He only wished he knew why his were so different from the other Uchiha. He smiled looking at the sun and guessing the time before running off to meet his friends. He tapped into his emotion sensing to make tracking them easier and strangely enough he found Shisui and Itachi alone in the woods. He ran in their direction and went to snoop on them. He landed into a tree nearby and focused chakra into his ears. "Itachi, give me a chance. The Koto Amatsukami could solve this problem before it escalates." Naruto could feel the desperation coming from Shisui. "We don't have much time, Shisui, the Uchiha coup is coming quickly. I've been given orders to stop the coup and if I must do this I want your help. This pain is something that I can't shoulder alone." Naruto was almost floored by the emotions coming from Itachi. He was wallowing in despair. "If my plan tonight doesn't work then we'll do it your way. If the clan doesn't come to reason, they will be wiped out." Naruto felt a stab of pain in his chest and could hold himself back no more. He jumped down between the two and glared at them both. "What the hell are you talking about? Why are the Uchiha planning a coup and why hasn't Gramps put a stop to it yet?" The two Uchiha looked at the blonde and frowned. They hadn't meant to be overheard and worse, by Naruto. They were about to explain things and try to keep him quiet when the blonde turned away from them and glared in a direction, raising a hand to silence them. "Someone just came close enough to spy on us. Their negative emotions are targeting you, Shisui." Naruto growled lowly. "I count 4 of them. They're really good at hiding their emotions, but I can still pick up the dregs at this distance." Itachi and Shisui were immediately on guard. "It's rude, I knew Danzo wanted to recruit me, but I'd assume now he just wants my Koto Amatsukami," Shisui called. Itachi nodded and looked at Naruto. "You need to get out of here before things get serious. You can't be involved in this, it's Uchiha business." Naruto looked over his shoulder and shook his head. Tell me I can trust you, tell me I can trust you and I'll let you see my most well-guarded secret. The two Uchiha looked at each other and nodded. You can trust us, Naruto, you're like a little brother to us both. The blonde smiled and let chakra flow into his eyes. Well, it seems it's my business too. For the first time Naruto showed another person outside of the Hokage and Kakashi his bloodline. He was glad it was his family. It's too late now, Shisui, we need to get clear before his full force comes to silence us. Once he has your eyes he'll use them to control me and Naruto. Having the Jinchuruki and the Uchiha prodigy on his side would be too much to resist. You need to go now. Danzo's reach is too far, no matter what I won't escape him. We have to make him think he doesn't want this anymore. Naruto looked up at him. How do we do that? The blonde questioned. Make him change his mind about my eyes. Kodomatsu Kami is so subtle it is near unnoticeable. So if I can get close enough to use it he and all of his agents will think they aren't as powerful as he was led to believe. That means I can't use it on the Uchiha though. Itachi and Naruto nodded. You two can't be around when it happens, you need to get away now and let them think their trap is working. Stay in range just in case things don't go to plan. Itachi and Shisui shared a look. We'll stay close, be careful. Itachi called out before walking away. If you don't make it back I'll come in to drag you out, Naruto threatened. Despite everything he was confident that his older brother figure would make it out alive. They hoped for the best. A short while later, Naruto and Itachi were in the tree line of the clearing. Shisui was facing off against wave after wave of root agents. It was clear they were meant to tire him out until Danzo could arrive. They were both prepared to blow their cover and step in the second it was necessary. Despite everything, things were going well until Naruto felt the cold calculated feelings of twisted protective nature coming from the tree line opposite of them. Danzo stepped out of the tree line with a calm expression and Naruto could feel things were going wrong. His eyes pulsed subtly, but he just blinked away the odd feeling. Itachi, we need to get him out of there now. Naruto made a move only to be stopped by Itachi. It's fine, he's already won. No one moved for a long time until Danzo ordered the retreat and left. It was seconds later that Shisui fell to his knees and passed out. The pair walked over to get Shisui into hiding. Kodo Amatsu Kami doesn't require eye contact to work. As soon as he was in Shisui's range of vision the job was done. They reached him and dragged him to his feet. His eyes fluttered open and were in their sealed state. Hey you two, did the plan work? Naruto smiled wide and nodded. Shisui smiled and passed out. Okay Naruto, we need to get him as far away from here as possible. If he comes back, he might just decide to tie up a possible loose end. Okay Itachi-ni. We can take him back to my place. After the last time Root still steers clear of the place. Itachi looked at the blonde, but didn't question it. He wouldn't risk his sanity. The pair pulled him out of sight into the small compound Naruto and Kakashi stayed in. They tucked inside and put Shisui in one of the spare bedrooms. This'll be fine. I'm going to let Kakashi know what happened. He turned to leave only to stop a moment later. We still have to discuss your plan. With that the blonde left, leaving a stunned Uchiha in his wake. The raven-haired teen wouldn't know, but Naruto already assumed his plan was necessary if he even thought it would work. Things had gone too far. The fox in Naruto's body had already taught him about necessary sacrifices for the greater good. Sometimes that kid scares the hell out of me. Shisui groaned, nearly sending Itachi into the roof. Sorry about that, I thought the Uchiha prodigy would be able to sense when I woke up. The older teen teased. I'm not that good yet. I'm glad the plan worked. Itachi muttered. It was a soft sentiment but held enough weight to pass along a deeper message. They both thought this would be the day Shisui died. Yet somehow a single kid changed all of that. If they had any less warning. If they didn't know they were being watched. If they separated and Shisui was more devoted to using Kodo Amatsu Kami on their clan then they wouldn't be having this conversation. Yeah, so am I. Naruto entered the room again and met eyes with the Uchihas in the room. I'm in. The blonde called flatly. They looked at him strangely. What do you mean Naruto? Shisui asked. I'm not letting you two do this on your own. I'm going to help you complete whatever plan you guys have, he declared. No. The Uchihas shouted in unison. We are not putting you through anything like that. You're way too young to have to suffer like that. Shisui all but shouted. Okay, tell me then. What happens after you're done with this? Are you going to stay loyal to the village, or are you going to leave? What even is your plan? Itachi was taken aback over this. He hadn't exactly thought that far yet. The children and those uninvolved will be spared, but all of the rest will be killed. It is necessary to the peace of the village. Naruto scoffed. Do you really think for a second that your plan would solve the issue? If you're seen by any of the survivors you would both have to leave. Revenge would be on the minds of all of the survivors. If you blame another village, war would be the only way out. Your only chance is blaming a group of rogue ninja, but finding a group that would be strong enough to wipe out a clan without the village knowing would be difficult to say the least. Naruto argued. I'm going to help. We're going to sit down and iron out the details so you two don't have to leave the village and live with this pain for the rest of your lives. The two Uchiha tried to argue, but they couldn't get through to the blonde at all. Fine Naruto, you can help with the planning, but you aren't going to be involved after that. We won't be responsible for you killing members of your own village, Shisui demanded. Naruto frowned but nodded anyway. Now we need to discuss who exactly dies, Naruto stated. Itachi and Shisui flanced. There can only be a few exceptions. Itachi stood. What do you mean only a few? Naruto looked at him sadly. Each of you should only pick 2 people to spare. The Uchiha were outraged. Have you two forgotten that this is a ninja village? The women and children of the clan are still qualified to be warriors. Keeping a secret this large would be almost impossible with what's left of the Uchiha clan hunting down the perpetrators. Naruto took a deep breath. I know you both won't want to hear this, but are you sure it's only the men and the police force who knew about the coup? They both stared at the blonde in silence. Both of you were trusted, but still they had doubts they might have kept a few secrets from you just in case you betrayed them. It would give them a chance for vengeance against the village. Shisui was the first to speak. Naruto is right, for the sake of the leaf we don't have much choice. If a coup actually starts, then it would only invite other villages to invade and take control. We can't let this escalate any further. Itachi looked distraught. He was hoping to minimize the damage, but it was clear now there was no minimization possible. Sasuke and Izumi. He took his seat after that. Mikado is my only pick. Itachi turned to him. She gave up being a ninja because of her kind heart. She wouldn't endanger the village for power. Despite everything, when this is all over we'll both have to leave the village. Itachi. Danzo can never know the truth about his changed memories, and you would be a target for him as well as soon as he finds out about your eyes. Itachi frowned but nodded all the same. I don't like it, but you're right. Having either of you in the village might just weaken our position. So for all intents and purposes both of you will die in the massacre as well. The two nodded and the plan came to fruition. If only they knew that they weren't the only ones planning for the fall of the Uchiha. 3 days later, Naruto sat alone in his home, rage clear in his expression and the chakra leaking from him. Everything was going so well until Itachi was confronted and revealed as the traitor to Sasuke along with Shisui. They finished what they had to and left right after as rogue ninja. He had met them shortly after outside of the village and they explained what went wrong. There was another Uchiha on the field that they didn't know about with a strange ability. When things had gotten bad, Naruto made it to the compound to check it out and caught a glimpse of the ability. It let the unknown Uchiha phase through attacks completely. His eyes burned the image into his head along with Itachi's use of Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi. The Mangekyou Sharingan seemed to have so many different uses. No wonder it was so coveted by the clan. Sasuke, Mikado and Izumi all made it out with their lives, but things were complicated. Shisui and Itachi won't be able to come back until they could properly discover who the other Uchiha was. Sasuke had vowed revenge on the both of them and root agents were dispatched to track the pair down by Danzo. Naruto decided then and there to focus on his training above all else. He had to be strong so his loved ones wouldn't have to suffer again. When Kakashi came home, his training started. It would be a long few years until the academy started. 2 years later, Naruto and Kakashi were training hard after Naruto's first year at the academy. They were at Training Ground 6 on the opposite side of the Forest of Death. It was a field surrounded by trees split by a stream. Naruto was in the middle of chakra hopping on top of the water. Chakra hopping was propelling yourself upward only using chakra and landing safely. It was something he made up by accident while working on water walking. It was about an hour into their training when Naruto felt the presence of another person. He glanced over into the direction the emotions he sensed came from and caught a glimpse of deep purple hair. He stopped what he was doing and crossed over to Kakashi. Kakashi, I know you said it would be bad if she got hurt training with us, but I'll take responsibility if that happens. Can I please ask her to join us? Kakashi looked at Naruto for a moment and I smiled. Fine, but keep it light for now. We need to find out how far she's come before things get more difficult than she can handle. Naruto had started working on advanced techniques and some from his father's own library, including both of his most famous ones. The blonde had set up jutsu formulae all over this field and used one just behind the intruder to surprise her. Hey Hinata, he whispered. She practically jumped out of her skin. And Naruto. It's so strange to see you here. Naruto looked over her shoulder. Well, you have been coming to watch my training for the past 3 months. Do you want to join us? Kakashi is a really good teacher and I'm sure he could show you a lot about chakra control and basic techniques. The blonde offered. Hinata seemed nervous for a while, but after a bit she looked at him confidently. That sounds like fun. I'd like to learn what he can teach. Naruto nearly jumped up and down but simply grabbed her hand and walked with her over to Kakashi. Kakashi, she said. Yes. Where should we start? Kakashi sat thoughtfully for a moment. Well then, let's start with tree walking. How much do you know about chakra control, Hinata-chan? The Hyuga girl looked at a tree and walked over to it. She started walking up it only to lose concentration a quarter of the way up. Oh, looks like you already have a grasp on it. So now we're going to just worry about sticking to the tree. Get as high as you can before you feel yourself losing control and stay there, Kakashi commanded. Hinata immediately started and stopped partway up the tall tree. Now any leaves that land on you, I want you to use chakra balancing on. The Jounin began throwing shuriken into the trees and leaves began falling. Naruto walked back over to the water and resumed his training, making sure to keep an eye on her progress. Every time she stuck 3 leaves, Kakashi would have her climb higher until she was almost at the top. Naruto started watching with his Sharingan and noticed the chakra holding her to the tree fading. On reaction, he threw a kunai at the tree and stuck it just under her in perfect time to catch her. Thanks Naruto-kun, she whispered before passing out from chakra exhaustion. Her reserves need a lot of work. She was only on the tree for 45 minutes, Kakashi stated. Naruto smiled up at him. When she wakes up we'll discuss her training schedule. 6 months later. A lot of things were changing quickly. While Naruto and Hinata were getting stronger, they didn't show it in public. They had gotten so good at the act it seemed they were regressing in ways instead of progressing. Their training was growing more intense and their sparring was bearing fruit. Naruto was a very proficient ninja in all aspects. He'd already moved on to learning about his chakra natures and found that he specialized in wind and lightning, but could use all 5. His taijutsu still needed a lot of work. Taking on his father's style was perfect, but the flash fist was difficult to master even with his father helping in his nightly visits. His ability in genjutsu was still abysmal unless he used his eyes, but the time he would have spent training that he instead focused on fuinjutsu. He was coming along much too quickly for it to be normal. Hinata had only just finished her conditioning, so she wasn't nearly as far along, but she still had her merits. She had Naruto beat easily in taijutsu, though she still found the gentle fist too stiff for her liking and they were mostly even as sensors. Her biggest edge though was genjutsu. In the few months she'd been training in it, she had developed such lifelike illusions they could be used on Kakashi without him noticing. She and Naruto had even begun pranking the villagers with them. There were a certain group of villagers who still believed the village layout had changed overnight. Soon they would start her elemental training when her reserves were deep enough. The only real issue with the training was Sasuke. The Uchiha had realized there was another Sharingan user left in the village and made it his mission to have Kakashi train him. So every chance he got he'd try and follow the Jounin to their training ground or to their home. Naruto was finally reaching the end of his wits. He wanted Sasuke to join them, but the Uchiha still wouldn't talk to him. They had been friends before the massacre of his clan. Now he was simply obsessed with vengeance. So when Naruto sensed Sasuke approaching their position, he huffed and stopped training. And Naruto-kun, what's wrong? He looked at her and grinned. It's just duck butt, I think I need to talk to him. With that he shined away and appeared in front of the Uchiha. Hey Sasuke, we need to talk. Before the Uchiha could argue, Naruto grabbed his arm and used Shunshine to take him a good distance away. When they stopped they were in the clearing. Shisui was attacked in. What the hell, Dobi, you can't just kidnap me, Sasuke shouted. Yes I can, because Itachi gave me permission to. The Uchiha's expression got dark. Now you're going to shut up and listen so you can shake yourself out of whatever the hell you have going on before it gets you killed. Why the hell should I listen to you? Sasuke sneered. Because I know exactly what happened that night. Sasuke shut up and listened while Naruto told him everything. At the end Sasuke wanted to argue for his clan's innocence, but something told him Naruto was telling the truth. The details, the timing, all of it made sense. Naruto knew telling him this could lead down 2 very distinct paths, and he hoped he could guide his friend down the right one like Itachi wanted. A coup would have destroyed the village. Even if all of the Uchiha had succeeded in killing the Hokage and taking control, the other clans wouldn't let it stand. Naruto explained. Sasuke looked at him and nodded. They would either leave to other villages or try to seize control themselves. Even if they stayed, the other villages would find out about the Leaf's instability and attack while we couldn't properly defend our borders. It would be a disaster on a large scale. God, I can't believe I hated Nisama without knowing the truth. Well then, how about you come with me to train? This village needs to change and the only way to do that is to have power. Sasuke grinned at the blonde. Sounds like a plan, Dobe. I'm still gonna need time to process all of this though. Together the two went to meet up with Hinata and Kakashi. This was the start of something great in the Hidden Leaf Village. 3 years later. Today was the day Naruto was heading to his final day at the academy. He was dressed in orange pants with black sandaled boots with red fur lining. He was wearing a black overshirt bound by red leather straps crossing over his chest, securing 2 short swords to his lower back. A short red scarf wrapped around his neck. The whisker marks on his face became more pronounced over the years, but that wasn't the only change. His teeth became more pointed and pupils sharper. His fingertips became black to the first knuckle and his nails grew thicker and sharper. He was on the verge of flunking to keep up his act along with Hinata and Sasuke. He had learned so much in the last 6 years, but the time to show it was still far away. His eyes tracked the movements of everyone around him absently as he leapt through the village. Naruto made it to the academy and slipped in through the window to take his seat. Everything was going smoothly when everyone started coming into the class. For the most part he was ignored except by the few people he acknowledged in Kiba. Shikamaru and Choji came in and they exchanged greetings. Hinata came in shortly after and took her seat to his right. Sakura, Ino and the fangirls came in but they ignored him as usual. Sasuke came in and took his seat to Naruto's left like normal only to be swarmed by fangirls the moment he was seated. It was strange to see for most people. The best and the worst of the class being so close and interacting so calmly was surprising. Anytime either of them were asked about it they always replied the same. Dobi/Team is my brother, why wouldn't we be close? Outside of them only a few others knew the whole story and they planned on keeping it that way. The fangirls had given up on trying to force Naruto and Hinata out of their seats after the first time Sasuke threatened to file restraining orders. It didn't stop them from swarming him before class though. Then Kiba came in and the peaceful hustle and bustle of the morning quickly became a lot louder. What the hell is the dead lash doing here today? It's not like he's going to pass. Why don't you just save Iruka-sensei the time and bail before he comes in? Killing intent silently rose in the room and the fangirls quickly moved away from Sasuke's location. On either side of the blonde, 2 dojutsu users were glaring at a now frozen Kiba. Naruto grinned down at the dog boy and the killing intent in the room instantly died. Unseen from everyone else was the slight tapping of a single black fingertip onto the table. Kiba, maybe you should take your seat before the best in the class do harm to you. Besides you have no room to talk seeing as you're only barely above Naruto in class rank. Shikamaru groaned. Kiba growled and took his seat just as Iruka came in with Mizuki. Everyone rose and bowed. Greetings class, it's about time we get your final exams on the road. Now to start there are a few things that need to be discussed before we start. All of your class rankings will be affected by your performance in the exam. Anyone can take the top spot and anyone can drop to dead last. Shock spread across the room and Mizuki seemed almost nervous for a moment before becoming impassive. As far as he was concerned he had nothing to worry about. Sasuke would still be the top of his class and Naruto would still fail. Now, Mizuki will pass around the written portion of the exam. Once he's done, turn it over and begin immediately. You have 2 hours. Naruto, Hinata and Sasuke all activated their dojutsu under a genjutsu and began watching the teaching assistant pass out the tests. As he went around he was always careful to pull the second sheet from the top. When he reached Naruto he handed him a test that was clearly altered under a genjutsu. The 3 couldn't help but roll their eyes at the simple trick. Sasuke made a hand sign and a bird crooned outside. The test went smoothly with Naruto passing with ease. When the time had ended he lifted his head and looked around nervously. Mizuki grinned and went to collect the tests. Alright, now we're going to head out into the training ground to complete the physical aspects of the exam. The class stood and made their way outside for the exam. Simple explanation: we're going to do simple solo battles split by genders. 1 round each tournament style until there are 2 winners. Let's get the matches started. First match, Naruto vs Issei. Please step up. The blonde stepped into the ring with the first generation ninja. Everyone assumed Naruto would lose until the match started and the blonde blurred past his foe and knocked him out with a single chop to the neck. Winner Naruto Uzumaki. Next match, Shino vs Shiba. Please step forward. The match started and ended uneventfully. Shino is a wonderful ninja compared to the civilian kid, so when he used the academy taijutsu style he took the victory soundly. Next, Choji vs Tatsuya. Another generational ninja versus a civilian. Choji used his family's expansion fist style to overwhelm his peer. The rest of the first round went about the same. Those from ninja families won out easily over the civilian kids except for Sakura, who despite being underweight was still proficient enough in the academy taijutsu style to barely pull out her win. The only girl in the class to soundly win their match was Hinata. The gentle fist style beat the civilian kid easily. Whoever made these brackets should be yelled at for how unfair of a start it was. Next match, Naruto vs Kiba. Please come forward. The dog boy was so busy boasting about an easy win he didn't notice the warning Akamaru tried to give him from the sidelines. The 2 stood across from each other and the match began. Naruto rushed forward with a kick that pushed straight through Kiba's guard. The blonde dropped to the ground and swept his peer's legs before mounting him and leveling a claw at his jugular. Naruto wins. Iruka called. Next match, Sasuke vs Shikamaru. Please come forward. A hand raised quickly. I forfeit, no point in fighting him. Shikamaru deadpanned. Iruka assumed this would happen. Winner by forfeit is Sasuke. Next match will be Shino vs Choji. Please come forward. The two stepped into the ring and the match began. Choji opened up with a flurry of strong punches and Shino couldn't do anything but avoid them. A single one would be enough to finish this match. He tried to counterattack but the attacks seemed never-ending. He just had to outlast his opponent's stamina. If only his family had focused more on physical conditioning. A blow landed against his ribs and launched him to the side. While he struggled to get his footing, Choji stood over him with a fist raised. I surrender. He admitted. Choji offered him a hand to help him stand and he took it. Good fight. Choji praised. If it had gone 30 seconds longer you would have had me. Shino bowed. It seems I need to up my taijutsu training. Next match will be Ino and Sakura. Iruka announced. They entered the ring and both had an air of confidence about them, but Naruto and Sasuke were both unimpressed. They were thin and untrained. Their movements were stiff and lacked experience. These split-gender training did more harm than good. The fight began and it dragged on much too long. When they started their clash they both landed a single punch that was beyond weak. With each attack they seemed more tired than injured. It clearly showed their lack of effort and lack of caution in their diet. After around 10 minutes Ino collapsed from exhaustion just long enough for Iruka to call the match in Sakura's favor. From the looks of everything Hinata would be sweeping the rest of the girls' bracket. Hinata's next match was won easily and the next round began quickly. Naruto vs Ryo. Iruka called. Naruto stepped in and looked over his opponent. Ryo was one of the more vocal students in his class, but his skills and his grades didn't match his confidence. Naruto knew he wouldn't make it out of the Junon exams, but he would still give him a chance to prove himself. Begin. Iruka ordered. Ryo charged brazenly and took on his standard brawler fighting style. Naruto frowned and swayed away from the first punch. Ryo's temper seemed to rise at that and he swung again. Naruto saw through all of his moves and always just barely avoided them. This infuriated his opponent and he began to get sloppy, throwing in untrained kicks and punches that threw off his balance and left too many openings. His speed and power made it clear how he made it this far into the tournament. Still he was far outmatched. Naruto leaned away from a simple punch and counterattacked with one that floored the aspiring ninja. Winner Naruto. Next match Sasuke vs Choji, Iruka shouted. The teacher felt pride welling up inside of him over Naruto's progress, but he couldn't show it here. I forfeit sensei. Choji called. Sasuke just rolled his eyes and stood outside the ring. Well then let's move on to the finals of each bracket. Naruto and Sasuke, please enter the ring. The crowd of fangirls hooped and hollered after their god Sasuke-sama. Finally a good fight. You ready for me to kick your ass, Stubby? Sasuke taunted while he stretched for the fight of his life. Oh, you know it, team, but you'll have to get that far first. Let's give the crowd a show. Iruka was growing a bit nervous at just the intent the two were giving off, but it didn't seem like enough to stop them. Begin. Immediately the two launched at each other violently. Sasuke tried a low kick that was blocked with a kick from Naruto. The blonde tried a simple jab that was countered by the same attack. Each attack met its duplicate time and time again until the two separated. Well then, since the warm-up is over, let's get this show on the road. Sasuke's eyes glowed their 3 tomoe red and Naruto's eyes were their 3 tomoe blue under a genjutsu. They blurred from view and came together with movements that shouldn't be possible for two perspective Junon. Naruto ducked under a punch and threw a kick at Sasuke's middle. Sasuke grabbed the blonde's leg and threw him away. Naruto dug his fingers into the dirt of the ring and stopped his momentum completely and used his unorthodox position to spin on his palm and kick Sasuke in his chest. It continued this way for a while and neither seemed to be tired in the slightest. Unfortunately, Sasuke made a fatal mistake. He dropped low and tried to knock off Naruto's balance, but Naruto was already shifting backwards for his own attack. The blonde leapt through the air and flipped, landing a momentum-fueled axe kick on his friend's shoulder. Naruto rolled and mounted him, leveling a clawed hand at his throat. Winner Naruto. Last match Hinata vs Sakura. Please enter the ring. Iruka announced. Naruto pulled Sasuke to his feet and they exited the ring. A lot of the fangirls' eyes were glaring daggers at the blonde. Others seemed to be looking at him in a new light. Naruto only kept his eyes on Hinata to watch the next match. She was graceful as she entered the ring and her taijutsu stance was perfect. Sakura on the other hand stood no chance. The match began and ended just as quickly. Hinata sent a single strike at the pink hit's solar plexus and the match was over. Well then class, it seems the rankings have changed quite a bit. Next step will be the ninja tools test. Line up, and when it's your turn, do your best to show your proficiency with these basic ninja tools. Iruka called over the din of the students. Everyone rushed to get in line except for Naruto, Sasuke, Hinata, Shikamaru, and Choji. The line narrowed down further and further as everyone who went up gave a pedestrian effort until Hinata was up next. She seemed nervous, but her confidence improved when she had the shuriken in her hands. With ease she threw 4 into the air above her. Naruto took careful note of them as they seemed to change course mid-air. Next she threw 4 forward. A second passed before a sound of metal hitting metal and then wood echoed through the trees. Ninja wire. She attached them to the first kunai and used the second set to set the trajectory right without having to move anymore. 8 clean hits, only one missed its mark by an inch. Naruto whispered to his best friend. "It seems your crush is plenty competent, Naruto. I don't know why you've increased your training as much as you have." The blonde frowned at his partner. "My mom was plenty strong, so was my dad." His words lingered and Sasuke frowned. The strength they possessed now meant nothing to the man who attacked the Leaf Village all those years ago. If they had to fight separately, they stood no chance. Even together they only had a marginal chance at victory under strict conditions they weren't even sure they could make on their own. Still, they were all special Jounin levels with their power restricted the way they were. Sasuke was the next in line and he grabbed a handful of both tools. He gave a weak throw of the first set of kunai and launched another set after them twice as fast. They collided and flew into different directions. He readied his shuriken and sent them in wild arcs. Naruto knew this trick. The Uchiha had set the shuriken in the path of his kunai. They would cross paths and the kunai would pin the shuriken to the target. It was almost impressive. Or at least it would have been if he had mastered the technique. The shuriken crossed the kunai's paths a little too late, sending the ninja tools off course. He still hit the target, and to most of the students it would seem intentional, but to the more well-trained eye it was a failure. Sasuke got praise from the ignorant masses and Iruka gave him an enthusiastic approving nod. Sasuke stepped to the side and the next student stepped up. Naruto, Sasuke and Hinata knew they needed to get their headbands so they could advance properly. The restrictions of the village only tempered their growth. Letting themselves go wild would do more harm than good in the long run. That train of thought stopped when it was Naruto's turn to show off his skill. He walked up and took 3 dozen kunai and a dozen shuriken. The other students mocked him for what they claimed to be overconfidence. He took a single ninja tool for all of the targets set up in the area. To start, he took a single kunai and added just a bit of wind nature chakra to it. He threw it and it went straight through a tree. The chakra faded before it hit the target at its center. Everyone grew silent after this. He threw his tools one by one, using some to reflect others into the harder to reach places or just using chakra to guide them. He was taking his time. He had no need to rush. He was trained enough to know exactly where the ninja tools would hit. When he was done, every target on the field had been struck twice, one dead center and one up and to the left. For most of the class they just thought he made a mistake. To Iruka, Mizuki and Shikamaru they saw exactly what happened. Assuming the bullseye was the heart, the second tool had struck the head. It was perfect. Naruto could feel Sasuke staring daggers into the back of his head from where he was standing. He gave the Uchiha a cheeky grin and walked back over to his side. "Damn show-off. I thought we were supposed to be keeping our skills under wraps?" Naruto decided to play dumb. "Damn, I forgot, team. I promise I won't do it again." While the two were having their private conversation and Hinata was enjoying their banter, Mizuki was growing nervous. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. He could only hope the blonde still couldn't do the clone technique. They'd finally reached the jutsu portion of the class. Everyone seemed to be glancing at Naruto and waiting as everyone was called to the front one by one to show off their use of the big 3. Naruto Uzumaki. The blonde stood and walked to the front. He did the transformation and the body-swapping techniques with ease. When it was time to do the clone, he produced a semi-transparent standing clones, each wearing green and blue instead of orange. The only one in the class to say anything was Kiba. "Doesn't matter how good you can fight if you can't use jutsu deadlift," he laughed alone in a silent room. Naruto was tempted to show him the shadow clone technique or any of the elemental versions. "Naruto, unfortunately I won't be able to pass you," Iruka said, sounding utterly defeated. Naruto just shrugged it off and returned to his seat. The rest of the day passed quickly, and as Naruto was leaving the academy he was pulled aside by Mizuki. Naruto could feel the negative emotions coming off the man in waves. "Hey Naruto, what if I told you there was an alternate way to pass?" Hours later, Naruto was sitting in the clearing surrounded by clones jotting down jutsu from the scroll of sealing. He was progressing very well. He only had a few more minutes until Mizuki was supposed to meet him. Sasuke, Kakashi, Hinata, and Hiruzen were all waiting in the trees, masking their presence. He dispelled all but one of his clones and the last three took all of his writings and made their way back to his home. Moments later Mizuki dropped into the clearing packed for a trip with 2 Fuma Shuriken on his back. "It's great to see you here, Naruto. Now hand over the scroll so I can confirm its authenticity. Then I can call the Hokage over so he can give you your headband." Naruto handed over the scroll and Mizuki started laughing. "Oh, you damn fool. Who knew you would be skilled enough to steal the scroll and stupid enough to believe me? Wow, you've really made my job easy. Alright, demon brat, time to die." In an instant Mizuki was surrounded by 4 clones of Naruto, all aiming weapons at his vitals. "Hold still and you get to live a little while longer," the blonde warned. Mizuki's blood froze. There was no sound, no hand signs, the clones just appeared. Still, it didn't matter if he mastered the clone technique, it was just a genjutsu. He moved to dispel it but felt the cold steel of a blade on his throat. "Maybe you should know. These are shadow clones. They're physical and very lethal. Last warning before the pain starts." Mizuki was sweating and he was more than terrified. Even still, something in his head justified his strength. "It's just Naruto," he thought. "He's a child. I can beat him." He moved for his weapon only to have his left arm severed the moment it moved. "You were warned," was the last thing the white-haired man heard before he lost consciousness. The watchers in the trees dropped down to end the situation. Hinata was the first to make it. She fussed over him now that there were no watchful eyes on them. "How many times do we need to tell you before you stop playing with your food? Lord Third told you as soon as he revealed his intent to put him down quick and clean. Some blood probably splattered on you somewhere," she admonished. I know, but I couldn't resist putting him in his place. Besides, the clones did all the messy work. I'm all good. Nothing to worry about." She smiled back at him and he hugged her. "I wasn't worried. I just didn't want to have to clean blood stains out of your clothes again." Naruto gripped her hand and turned his attention to the others. "So you two are finally done giving me diabetes, great, now let's get down to business," Hiruzen teased. "You 3 will not be Team 7 as you've requested. At least not yet. I'm placing Hinata in Team 8. Kuronai is the newest jounin of the batch and her original team composition of Shino, Kiba, and Sakura would undoubtedly get killed." They all saw the need for balance in the starting teams, but it was still irritating. "Your goal is to get your teammates up to Chunin level as soon as possible. After that all of you will have the freedom to work in different teams. Just help them survive and you 3 can work together again," Hiruzen promised. The 3 nodded and shunshined away before the Anbu showed up. They couldn't risk their secret getting out too soon. "Kakashi, are you sure having those 2 on the same team is a good idea? Alone they're monsters, together I don't think anyone not mid to high tier jounin could stand a chance." Kakashi gave a warm eye smile. "And that's the reason why they should be on the same team. If not for team composition I would really want Hinata to join them. Team 7 will be the top team in the village and it'll inspire the rest of them to be better. We've gotten lax after the last war. Anything can happen, we must be prepared." The Anbu arrived as Kakashi looked off into the distance. Naruto had had a bad feeling for a while that something was coming and his gut happened to be right most of the time. At the Hokage compound, Naruto, Sasuke and Hinata were all sitting in the dining room enjoying themselves talking. Until Naruto's expression became harsh. "We aren't strong enough. By the Chunin exams we need to be jounin levels at the very least. We're going to have to rework our training soon. In this world power is everything and we need enough power to change it." "Damn way to bring down the mood, Dobe. I get it, the world is harsh, stop reminding us every 6 minutes." Sasuke sassed. "I agree, we get the stakes. We just have to overcome them, no big deal," Hinata added. Naruto's playful grin came back to his face. "I know, but I'm the king of pranks and unnecessary drama. Can't risk Himo here taking my second title. Now what movie are we watching tonight? I picked last time." The next day, Naruto, Hinata and Sasuke were all in Training Ground 31 working on the new aspects of their training with Kakashi. Naruto had been wanting to teach them both jutsu from his collection, but it didn't seem like a good time until now. "Alright my adorable Jinan, at Naruto's request I'm going to teach you both a jutsu, but I will teach you both in steps. Each of the steps can be incorporated into your current styles and boost you immensely. For Hinata I will be teaching you the Rasengan." He lifted his right hand and a ball of blue rotating chakra formed. "As for Sasuke I will be teaching you the Chidori." With a sudden screech his left hand became a spear of lightning. "When you each master the first step I want you to think over how you can add it to your current skill set before we move on to the next." The 2 nodded and Kakashi continued. "Hinata, the first step is rotation." She gave him a wide-eyed look then glanced at Naruto. She had a feeling she knew where this was going. "You need to learn how to spin your chakra in different directions at once. There is a bag of water balloons next to the lake, use those to practice. Just flow chakra into them and try to burst it by moving the chakra violently. He explained. Hinata went over to try it right away with Naruto keeping a watchful eye on her. Now Sasuke, the Chidori requires lightning release chakra. We found out that was your primary chakra nature, but we haven't had time to help you master it. So the first step is learning how to harness your chakra nature. Come with me, this is going to sting a bit. Naruto winced as he saw Kakashi and Sasuke walk away. He knew what was about to happen, it was something he had actually thought up. The hardest part of nature release was getting a feeling for your different natures. So if someone forced some elemental chakra into your system, it would speed up the process. Though it hurt like hell and the one learning wouldn't be able to mold chakra until they got it down. It did in hours what normally took days or weeks. That didn't mean it was anything close to fun. Though Naruto still took satisfaction in his best friend's suffering. They had a bit of a sadistic streak between them from their vicious training and pranks. Sasuke's screams echoed through the forest and Naruto just smiled and continued his training. After a short while Hinata came over for advice with the training. Naruto-kun, I'm not exactly sure how I'm supposed to make this work. Whenever I try to inject chakra into the balloon it bursts from the force in one direction. I can't seem to make it stay in the balloon. Naruto paused his training and grabbed a balloon. Well, you need to let the chakra leak out first. You're used to the gentle fist technique, so you're using that as a baseline for releasing chakra from your palms. Think of it more like the tree walking exercise. He pushed his chakra into the balloon and it swelled. He stopped and it went back to normal. Work until you can do that without destroying the balloon. The blonde made a shadow clone and left it with Hinata. He went back to his training. He needed to master a certain jutsu. He had been training to use this jutsu his whole life and it was coming along well. Naruto had another couple clones training nearby on the muscle memory for his fighting style and working on the new jutsu from the Forbidden Scroll and what he could find elsewhere. He figured out he could use clones for training shortly after he was taught the technique. Though recently he was streamlining the process. He found out that every time one of the clones dispersed, its knowledge traveled to all of the other clones and himself, so he could speed up his training exponentially. He currently had 600 clones split into 3 groups to train his fighting style to master his father's signature jutsu, and the third batch was working on the jutsu he took from the sealing scroll in groups of 20. Every time one clone got a task down it would dispel and spread the technique to the others. It was going really well, and from the looks of it he would have the Hiraishin down in only a few weeks. Using his clones let him focus on chakra control and conditioning. The clones could learn muscle memory and technique, but physical capabilities could only come from the original. So he trained his body to the condition it was in. His lean form did nothing to show off his strength. He had spent most of his life utilizing Kuruma's chakra and infusing it with his body and chakra network. His muscle and bone density was off the charts. He could heal most minor wounds in minutes, major wounds in hours, and he could regrow limbs in a couple days. He found out that fact after he tried to use the Hiraishin with his father's jutsu formulae. Unfortunately it rebounded and only his right arm up to the elbow actually moved. With Kuruma's urging he stayed put and waited for it to heal. He had enough clones to bring him food as his arm grew back a week later. Since then his healing factor had only grown. He knew he could heal most wounds, including what would be fatal to most people. That didn't mean he wanted to be hurt. He sat in the lotus position and took off his shirt. He flowed chakra into his skin and looked down at his chest. He had 2 new seals over each of his pectorals. They were some of the few he had perfected, each serving a different purpose. The one over his heart was a resistance seal. It increased his personal gravity by 4 times. He had another idea for his training, but it was conceptual so far. As for the other seal, it was a chakra limiter. Turned on its highest setting he would look like a civilian to anyone that was watching. He made it to keep his massive chakra in check and out of view of prying eyes. He knew some of the Hyuga had it out for him. He was friendly with the current heiress and he seemed to have the current clan head's favor as well. Hiding his abilities from them would only be beneficial in the future. He released both limiters and got used to the new feelings in his body. A pulse of chakra filled the air and every sensor type in the village naturally turned in that direction, but just as quickly as it came it was gone. Naruto drew in his own chakra and flashed through a few hand signs. He wasn't planning to actually use a jutsu, but he's been curious for a while about how each sign changed the flow of his chakra. Some assisted his nature composition, others increased his chakra flow. Different combinations enabled different things. Most jutsu that affected the outside world were elemental in nature. For the most part non-elemental jutsu relied on using chakra on the inside, or a conduit to extend the jutsu outward. It was why his father wanted to make the Rasengan into an elemental jutsu. The standard jutsu could only be used within a few inches of his skin. though that was something he was trying to correct. As of late he's been working on using his elemental chakra and shape manipulation at the same time. Wind release seemed to be the one that was closest to completion, but that was still far off. He made the dragon hand sign and felt his chakra lean toward wind nature. He breathed out a steady stream of it and it swirled in front of him. He opened his right hand face up and formed a Rasengan. He guided the wind chakra to his Rasengan and began to mix the two. The shape manipulation seemed to be the biggest issue. Simply put, elemental chakra sacrifices fine control for power, similar to the inverse chakra control theory. It had greater output, but maintaining control required way more concentration. He'd be at this for a while. When the jutsu broke down he made a batch of 100 clones and sent them off to work on the basic kata for his weapons of choice so far. The curved falchion swords crossed across his back served their purpose, but he wasn't as proficient as he would have liked. Kakashi had started them early on mastering a weapon of their choice. Sasuke took to the sword like fish cakes to ramen. Hinata took up archery and oddly enough the spear. Naruto on the other hand couldn't really get the hang of any of them. All of the swords in the village were much too light to last with his fighting style and commissioning a new one was out of his price range at the moment. The bow staff couldn't handle his strength and chakra natures without shattering. Hammers were pointless, daggers didn't suit him. When he found a small weapon shop on the main road the owner offered the short sword to him on a discount if he could actually hold them. He was confused but he inspected the weapons. The blades were black metal that seemed to have a cracked pattern running up the edge. The guard looked like animal claws and the handles were wrapped in red tan leather. The pommels had loops big enough for him to put 2 fingers through. He assumed it was for the balance of the weapons. He reached for them and they fell into his grip. They were perfectly balanced and they were heavy enough to match his strength. He gave them testing swings and the shop owner grinned as he watched. "Okay kid, I assumed you'd be able to handle 'em. Keep 'em and leave. Come back when you can use 'em right." Like that he was ejected from the shop and left to his own devices. He stopped reminiscing over the past and went back to his elemental transformation. Hours later, Kakashi came back with an unconscious Sasuke in tow. "Okay Naruto, Hinata, you two need to head home and get some rest. Tomorrow you'll be placed in teams. I wish you could all be on the same one, but that can't happen yet." "Yeah, that would be great, but we get it. Can't have us being that overpowered from the start. Especially with the other options available." Naruto relented. "Yeah Kakashi-sensei, we understand. It'll give us the opportunity to inspire the other teams to get better," Hinata added. Kakashi gave them a warm eye smile. He was quite proud of his cute little Jinan. They split off to rest for what would no doubt be a very eventful day. The next day, Naruto and Sasuke were annoyed and Hinata was trying not to commit murder. So Team 7 was Naruto and Sasuke as well as Sakura, the co-leader of the Sasuke fan club, who of course was already trying to latch herself firmly onto Sasuke's face. Hinata on the other hand was placed with Shino Aburame and Kiba Inuzuka. Kiba had already started flirting with the poor girl and she was already contemplating capital murder. The only question she had to ask was how to get rid of the witnesses. "Okay class. Stay here until your Jounin-sensei arrives. They should all be showing up shortly," Iruka called as he rushed out of the classroom. He'd seen that look on Hinata's face and it normally preceded her Juken striking some poor fool who badmouthed her not-so-secret crush. As far as he was concerned he wasn't their teacher anymore so there was no need for him to handle the extra paperwork. Inside the classroom Sasuke was running all around the classroom avoiding Sakura and Ino, who were once again competing for his attention. Naruto was laughing his ass off, and Hinata had just paralyzed Kiba's vocal cords and arms. Akamaru seemed to be enjoying the silence. When Asuma Sarutobi and Kurenai walked in on this disaster they were tempted to turn around and try back later. If only they had listened to their instincts. Asuma tried to speak, he really did, but whatever he was about to say was interrupted when Sasuke ran behind his legs and stole one of his kunai. The terrified boy pointed it at his fangirls to ward them away. "Back foul she-beasts, you will not have my children today." Asuma looked at the child and realized one of the last Uchiha was clinging to his leg. He gave Kurenai a strange look. She just shrugged and stepped toward the girls. "Okay young ladies. Settle down. This is no way for an aspiring ninja to act." The previously identified she-beasts turned on her and hissed. Yes, like actual snakes. Elsewhere, Orochimaru was working on one of his more obscure experiments when he suddenly felt a tingle at the base of his spine. He looked in the direction of the hidden leaf. "It feels like someone is encroaching on my territory. Kabuto, remind me to find this interloper and put the fear of me into them." Noted Lord Orochimaru. A voice from nearby called back in the classroom. "He is our precious." They chanted in unison. "We will not let the hag have him." Immediately Kurenai drew her own kunai with a look that told everyone she was ready to kill two small children. Nai, calm down. You can't kill the Jinan, Dad would skin you alive. She seemed to regain her senses, but it didn't last long. Yes Hag, learn your place and hand over the precious. Kurenai lunged, Asuma stopped her. Sasuke lost his meat shield and ran up the wall to escape. Naruto still laughed from his corner. Kakashi entered through the window and raised an eyebrow. Naruto, Sasuke and Hinata all snapped to attention and appeared at his side. Though Sasuke was still gripping his stolen kunai. Well, it seems like all of you are having fun. Should I come back later? The kunai in Sasuke's hand flew just past the man's face. Sorry, bad joke. Now Kurenai and Asuma, maybe you should grab your Jinan. We're burning daylight. The two nodded and got serious. Teammate/Team 10. Come to me. They both called in unison. It took nearly a minute for the teams to assemble. Hinata being the first for Teammate followed closely by Shino and a while after that Kiba. For Team 10 Choji dragged Shikamaru in front of the teacher as quickly as he could and Ino had to be dragged after she refused to leave Sasuke. Kakashi rolled his eyes. Team 7 get it in gear. I was almost on time, don't make me wait. Sakura looked at the man then her teammates who seemed to know who the man was. She took her place in the line with her teammates. Well then my adorable Jinan, I expect the absolute best out of you today. I'll meet you three on the roof. Without another word Kakashi disappeared in a puff of smoke. Well I guess we should take our leave. We already have our training fields ready. Asuma called. He and Kurenai led their students out of the room. Sakura watched them go and turned back to her team only to find them gone. Sasuke, you will not escape me, she shouted to the heavens. Sasuke shivered uncontrollably. Naruto kept trying not to laugh. Kakashi-sensei, I changed my mind. Can we please have Hinata back? There was much less chance of me getting raped on mission. Kakashi I smiled. Sorry Sasuke. This is the will of the third, and as such you have to deal with it. I can promise that I'll do everything in my power to train the fangirl out of her system. His visible eyes started to glow and Sasuke started laughing. Okay, I can live with this. Naruto just sat there waiting patiently, and holding perfectly still. He didn't know exactly why, but in the scrolls his dad left him it was mentioned to be important. In the year he's been practicing he's gotten good enough to do it for hours at a time. Kuruma seemed to like the idea and had the child start mixing his demonic chakra with the child's and reaching a perfect balance in his system. He still struggled with doing both at times, but lately he's been stepping up the training by doing it while sitting on the lake on their normal training ground. On occasion he could feel a strange kind of energy being drawn to him, but whenever he tried to investigate, Kuruma would send a painful jolt of chakra into his system. When asked why the fox simply said he wasn't ready yet. Naruto was currently having that feeling and pulled himself away. He trusted his partner, and if he said he wasn't ready he believed it. Naruto got an odd feeling and ducked low under a rock that sailed toward his head. See, this is why he shouldn't be on this team. He can't even pay attention when you're talking sensei. He's just gonna drag me and Sasuke-kun down. Sakura screeched. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, but you already knew that. My likes are ramen, protecting my friends, training and pulling pranks. My dislikes are currently perverts, screeching banshees, morons who overestimate themselves and the ignorant masses. My life goal is to unite the elemental nations. Sakura started laughing. Your life goal is to get dicked down by someone who can even tolerate your presence. You're so incredibly shallow that you somehow convinced yourself that said person likes thin girls, so you've been starving yourself for months. I doubt you could run a mile right now. Yeah, I heard every word of your introductions. I was just thinking about something else. Naruto rebuffed. Naruto, I believe that's enough. Kakashi started only for Sasuke to step in. No, she really needs to hear this. Sakura had the nerve to look betrayed. Kakashi-sensei, I propose a challenge. The Cyclops raised an eyebrow curiously. I performed the bell test against Sakura with a few changes. If she can get a single bell from me I'll go to the Hokage myself and request a team change. If she fails, she has to work on a training schedule I make myself for a week. Kakashi was quite interested in where this was going. He simply nodded his affirmation. Well then, I guess we should get started then. Kakashi was going to pass the bunch anyway. Sakura didn't respect Naruto and the bell test wouldn't change that. He hoped that this might. Training ground 7. Was all Kakashi said before he gripped Sakura's shoulder and shined away. Dobi, you sure this is a good idea? This might actually make things worse. The blonde sighed. She needs to understand that everything is not how it seems. I had to be dead last to get on the same team as you. Hinata should have been on our team. If she doesn't choose to shape up here and now, I'm going to the Hokage to have him switch Hinata and Pinky. Naruto focused for a moment and grabbed Sasuke. In a flash of red the pair appeared in Training Ground 7. As soon as they appeared 20 clones of the blonde appeared and rushed in different directions with bells. Simple rules, those clones are going to put the bells in the forest. You need to find one and retrieve it. Not all of them are real though, so watch out. Last thing you have until sundown. The Naruto she thought was the original puffed out of existence. All around her she heard his voice echo. You may begin now. She turned toward Kakashi and Sasuke and saw them both seeming stunned. What the hell is going on? She screeched. Naruto is really upset. He's holding back a lot still, but I don't like your chances. Sasuke admitted. He jumped away and landed in a tree to watch. Wow, he's taking you seriously. This is going to be an uphill battle for you. He matched his students' movements. She scoffed. He's the dead last. He doesn't stand a chance against me. I was the Kunoichi of the year. She jumped into the trees and ran in the direction the last clone she saw went. She traveled through the trees with her eyes peeled looking for whatever simple traps Naruto could have set up. She saw one such trap on the tree in front of her and dodged to the left of it. Wow, Naruto baka, did you really think that would woo? She screamed as her ankle was caught in a snare trap. She was pulled from the tree and just when the rope was going to stop her momentum a kunai flew through the air and cut it. She was thrown into the sky with a single clone watching from the tree she dodged. He was clearly trying not to laugh. He dispelled and the rest of the clones got the memory. The original sat under a tree in the clearing they started in. He lifted his hand and a silver bell attached to a kunai appeared in his palm. 1 down, 21 to go. He stabbed the kunai into the tree behind him. Back with Sakura. Sakura landed roughly in some bushes and climbed out with her skin tinted pink from bruises and rage. I'm gonna kill him, she hissed. She looked at her surroundings and found Naruto leaning against a tree with a bell attached to his hip. He looked asleep. The pink cat grinned and moved toward him as quietly as she could. When she was within striking distance she jumped at the bell only to get kicked to the side roughly. Do you really think so low of me? He growled. He fell into his starting taijutsu stance. Oh, so the Dobi thinks he can fight. I was the best in our class at the academy's taijutsu style. The blonde rolled his eyes. Yeah, because the only ones who actually used the academy styles were the civilian students. Everyone else with the clan has their own style and only practice the academy style for the grade. A tick mark showed on her temple and she charged. The muscles in Naruto's legs tensed for a moment until he blurred from her line of sight. She tried to track him with her eyes, but he was much too fast for her. A punch from her left floored her and the following kick sent her into a tree. Wow, maybe if you actually ate food you might not be so sluggish. Sakura turned on the voice only to find the source gone. Show yourself, you damn coward. What are you afraid of, a weak little girl? She taunted. Naruto tapped her on her shoulder from behind. No, I'm not. Another punch landed and she passed out. The Naruto she was fighting tied his bell around an engraved kunai. He tossed it in the air and as soon as it disappeared he dispelled. With Naruto 20 left. He called as the kunai fell into his grip. He stuck it into the tree just like the last. Kakashi and Sasuke were watching the goings-on via shadow clones. Every time Sakura failed their clones would create a second one and make it dispel. He's doing well at holding back. Giving her 22 chances may have been a bit too much for her, Sasuke whispered. Kakashi nodded as the next batch of memories came in. Yeah, I doubt she'll last another 2 or 3 of those. The two waited patiently for what would come next. With Sakura woke up with a mild headache and flashes of memories of what just happened. What seemed like the same Naruto that she just fought was waiting for her, except he didn't have a bell. Now that you're finally with the land of the living, get up and head in that direction. He threw a kunai to her right. When you break the tree line you'll find another clone. If you catch him you get his bell. If not, well, trust me when I say there is a steep difficulty hike from there. The clone dispelled, leaving Sakura in the clearing alone. She got up and dusted herself off. She was getting more irritated by the second. Fine Dobi, I'll play your bullshit game. But as soon as I win you're off my team. She walked over to the kunai and picked it up. She stowed it with her own just in case. When she broke the tree line she saw another blonde standing there waiting with a grin on his face. He stuck out his tongue and jumped into the tree. Catch me if you can. The pink cat threw a kunai after him, but he was already running off. She gave chase from the ground while he kept just far enough that her thrown weapons wouldn't do much. Hey, watch for that trap. He called out. Do you really think I'm dumb enough to fall for? A tree branch swung and smacked her in the face. Naruto nearly fell out of the tree laughing. Maybe you should have been. She got up and threw a sizable number of shuriken at the blonde. Unfortunately for her and her ego he wasn't there anymore. A voice sounded from a few yards to her right. Wow, your aim is worse than Kiba's. No wonder they separated the males from the females. Sakura lunged at him and seemed to catch him. She was just about to celebrate when she felt splinters digging into her arms. The blonde was sitting in the tree above her with his hands pressed together. When the banshee is within arm's reach, may your prayer reach the log and grant you protection and strength. Praise the log, amen. He prayed. Sakura looked at him like he'd lost his mind. It got worse when Kakashi and Sasuke's voices echoed the sentiment. Praise the log, amen. Enough of this. Naruto, get down here and give me that damn bell. I deserve to be on this team and you don't. I'm better than you at everything and that's not going to change anytime soon. So listen to your superior and hand it over. The forest was deathly silent and a pulse of killing intent spread in the air slowly. It was clearly originating from the center of the training ground, and moving like a wave from the trees. Immediately Sasuke and Kakashi appeared around her. Too late. The original is pretty pissed. A red bolt of lightning struck where the clone was and left a very angry Naruto in his place. Naruto snapped his fingers and 20 clones appeared, each holding a kunai with a bell attached. They all threw them into the ground in a circle around their original and dispelled. Take one, was Naruto's simple reply to her tirade. She rolled her eyes and approached. When she reached down for one of the kunai, she was kicked to the side. I thought you wanted to win. I told you to take one, didn't I? She stood up and ran toward the closest one, this time keeping an eye on Naruto as well. This time when she got close, an uppercut from nowhere lifted her off the ground and a kick launched her back toward Sasuke and Kakashi. Well then, it seems you aren't better than me after all, huh? Or at least if you are, you haven't shown me yet. She charged again and got much the same. This kept up over and over until she was exhausted and on the verge of tears. She turned to Kakashi and Sasuke. Why are you just sitting there watching? You should both be on my side, she cried. You chose this, was Sasuke's only reply. Kakashi didn't even give her that much. She turned back toward Naruto and saw him still in the same place. She stood to her feet and drew a kunai from her pouch. Though the grip felt different from her standard ones, she was too upset to notice the detail. I refuse to lose to demon trash like you, she shouted and charged, but she barely made it a few feet before Naruto appeared in front of her. He gripped her by the throat and pushed her against a tree. Well then, I think that answers my question. What about you two? Naruto asked. Yeah, this isn't going to work despite our hopes. I'll back your choice to the Hokage. He'll have to come up with another way to motivate the other teams. Kakashi answered. You know what I thought about this arrangement to start with? Let's just get this over with so we can become Jonin. Naruto nodded and flared his chakra. The other two grabbed onto him and they disappeared in a flash of red. In the Hokage's office, Hiruzen was sitting in a meeting with the successful Jonin teams. Unfortunately, there were a few complaints from Team 8. Lord Third, I request to be put on another team or to have Kiba taken off of this one, Hinata said quite bluntly. She seemed perturbed about the child's presence. May I ask why, Hinata? Teamwork is a very important aspect of these Jonin teams? The old man expected this, but he'd hoped it would have taken longer to get this far. He makes sexist remarks near constantly. He's tried flirting with myself and Kurenai-sensei since we made it to the training ground. He even tried to cop a feel when we were in simulated combat with Kurenai-sensei. When my sweater was damaged during the test, he remarked about my figure and gave away our ambush position to sensei. I refuse to work with him in any capacity as it stands. Hiruzen glared at the young man as he seemed to try to shrink away. Well, unfortunately I don't have any teams that currently need a member. He was cut off when a flash of red grabbed everyone's attention and Team 7 appeared. Naruto, who was holding up Sakura, tossed her to the side. I want to request that Hinata-chan be put on Team 7. Hiruzen groaned and smacked his head on his desk. Are you fucking kidding me? I had this whole thing planned out. I expected some pushback but not to this degree. Naruto, tell me why I should consider this change? Naruto nodded. Pinky refuses to accept reality and will not acknowledge my strength. In doing so she has made teamwork and trust impossible between us. Her ability will do nothing but hold this team back. Naruto explained. Hiruzen was about to speak when Naruto continued. Besides this, I believe Kurenai would be a much better pick for her teacher. Sakura's chakra reserves are on the smaller side even for a female Jonin, but her control is exceptional. Kakashi-sensei is adept in teaching jutsu, hand-to-hand combat, and bloodlines. Low reserves and high control make for very good genjutsu specialists. After some time she might even become a competent medic. Along with this, I must question the way this system is supposed to work. Kakashi is the perfect teacher for Sasuke, Hinata, and myself. While Kurenai and Asuma-sensei's students' skills will be stifled under their teachers. I think joint training between the Jonin sensei would benefit everyone here. Hiruzen looked up at the boy and frowned. How the hell did you know my plan for this year's batch of Jonin? The blonde tilted his head curiously. I didn't. I just thought I'd voice my opinion on the matter. So can Pinky switch with Hinata or what? Naruto grinned at the man. He knew he had him cornered and there weren't many choices in the matter. Sakura was stunned into silence. She wanted to argue against Naruto, but the blonde actually argued for her skills in other areas. She knew her talents would make her a great genjutsu and medical specialist, but to have someone lay out the path to her made it more real. I suppose I have no choice unless either Jounin-sensei can come up with a compelling enough argument to change my mind. He opened the floor to the Jounin. Naruto's argument holds weight. I stand by my student's decision. Kakashi replied, why not trade Sakura for Kiba? He would be a better fit than Hinata going off of Naruto's previous points. And on a team full of males he wouldn't have the misogyny problem. Asuma added, but we lead back to teamwork and trust. Kiba has the same attitude toward me that Sakura has. Besides, Hinata-chan has bigger reserves than Kiba already by far. The blaze tone in his voice betrayed the words he spoke. What do you mean she has larger reserves? Kura and I couldn't resist asking. Kakashi, Sasuke, you two would be the best judges of it right now. Only the two name got the underlying meaning behind it. Sasuke activated his dojutsu and glanced at the two. He pointed to Kiba. Mid-Jonin reserves. He pointed to Hinata. Mid to high Chunin reserves. The difference between the two was massive to say the least. For those here who don't know. To put it in relative terms, say an average civilian had 100 units of chakra. The average Jonin would have close to 1000. The average Chunin would be right around 2500. The average Jounin would have 5000 and the average elite Jounin would have right around double that. If I remember correctly, Sandaime-sama in his prime was close to 20,000 units. The second and first were probably more and the fourth was close to 25 when he died. Kakashi added, damn, that's absurd. Is there a way to measure our reserves? Choji piped up. Yes, but that will have to wait for another time. My plan for joint training should be set up in the next few weeks or so while you all get used to teamwork training. I'll be sure to requisition the measurement device from the R&D department. Now on to the matter at hand. Naruto, I see the merit in your suggestion and I approve. Team 7 now consists of the Jounin Kakashi Hitake, and the 3 Jonin Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha, and Hinata Hyuga. Team 8 is the Jounin Kurenai Yuhi, and the 3 Jonin Shino Aburame, Kiba Inuzuka, and Sakura Haruno. These team placements will remain unless something happens to make me change them, Hiruzen declared. Naruto let out a sigh of relief despite the glares he was receiving from Sakura. That's so funny, forehead, you weren't even on Sasuke-kun's team for a day. The only other blonde in the room teased. Naruto turned on her in a heartbeat. I wouldn't talk so much if I were you. I hope Asuma-sensei has a plan to whip you into shape soon. From what we all saw in the academy, some of the Chunin and Jounin in the village have a dead pool on this batch of Jonin and the odds are you or Sakura go first. That shut the girl up. Hiruzen looked over his Jounin only to find them all looking away. Kakashi hit the blonde over the head. We only let you in on the dead pool, because you put 10,000 Ryu on yourself. All eyes shot to the blonde. Hey, someone's gotta pay for my funeral, Naruto said with a smirk and surprisingly warm eyes. He looked at everyone who had mixed looks of sadness and pity. Hey, if I'm gonna bankrupt the old man, it'll be feeding my ramen habit. Or maybe on some really cool weapons. He turned on the old man. Speaking of Gigi, I need to find a really good weapons shop soon. The Higurashi shop won't even let me in until I get used to my swords. You promised if I made Jonin you would get me a custom weapon of my choosing. Sarutobi groaned, and pulled a scroll from his desk. Yeah, brat, already ahead of you. That scroll has them and the instructions on their use and maintenance. Don't break them, it was expensive. Naruto grinned and stowed the scroll away. Okay, now if that's all, I have a bunch of new paperwork to handle. Everyone can go home except for Kakashi. There's something we need to discuss. Yes, Lord Hokage. They all called in unison before leaving. As soon as they left, Hiruzen waved his hand and the hidden Anbu left the room and guarded the door. The pulsed his chakra to activate the privacy seals. I've received word from Jiraiya, things are worse than we could have predicted. Hiruzen's tone was serious and Kakashi was alert. How bad have things gotten? At his earliest estimation it'll happen around the Chunin exams. Kakashi was shocked. Why then of all times? The Cyclops asked, because his publisher has been more strict as of late. He won't let the next Icha release until it's perfect. The two men wept. The tear of a pervert denied. We must stay strong until Lord Jiraiya blesses us with his works. Kakashi chanted. The two men nodded with conviction and sat together in silence. If anyone saw this, their estimations of the men would drop immediately. Oh, and Orochimaru is planning an invasion for the Chunin exams as well. We should probably prepare for that as well. Hiruzen added. The next day, Naruto found Hinata in the village and took her to his and Kakashi's private training ground. Okay Hinata, I know you're wondering why I brought you here. Simply put, I'm going to unlock your elemental nature chakra. Her eyes widened for a moment after remembering how Kakashi did it, but she knew Naruto wouldn't hurt her unless it was necessary. Don't worry, the method I taught Kakashi was the first draft. I've since perfected it. I'm going to inject elemental chakra into your system and manually guide it through your body so you can get a feel for it. You'll have some minor discomfort at first, but no pain. She smiled up at the blonde. I trust you, Naruto-kun. She immediately laid back and lifted her shirt. She was blushing intensely, but so was Naruto. He laid a gentle hand on her stomach and focused water chakra into his palm. My control is still a bit rough, so I'll have to take things slow. Once you get it down, you'll be much better at this than me, he admitted. A pulse of foreign chakra entered her system but didn't move. Naruto took a breath and made a half-ram hand sign with his left. With his right he extended his pointer and middle fingers and placed them over where her chakra core was. He activated his Sharingan and saw the flow of chakra in her body. He moved his fingers and his chakra followed. Naruto heard Hinata start grunting and panting and thought maybe he was being too rough, but when he looked at her face she seemed content and embarrassed. Blood immediately rushed to his head and his skin became bright red. Laughter filled his head. Wow brat, you managed to get her hot and bothered. You're going to die when Hiashi finds out. Kurama taunted from the safety of the child's mind. No one must know for the sake of my life and to prevent castration. The boy whimpered. He continued the procedure for a while longer until he could see Hinata's elemental chakra flowing freely along the same path as his did. He pulled his chakra out of her body carefully and she sat up. And Naruto-kun, that felt so good. You're going to have to do that more often. He smiled warmly. Whatever you say, Hinata-chan. Now we need to get going, we have our first E-rank mission today. He stood and offered her his hand. She took it and he helped her to her feet. With a pulse of chakra they became a flash of red. 3 weeks later, Team 7 had just finished their 32nd consecutive D-rank mission. Kakashi was surprised not to have any complaints about it yet. He was more than happy about how quickly his team was advancing. He'd trained them all before they had become ninja and knew what they were capable of. Still, to see how far they've come in areas he didn't help with. It was why he approved them for their first C-rank mission. Though he did get a bit of pushback. Yesterday, Iruka, Kakashi, Asuma, and Kurenai were standing in Hiruzen's office for their weekly report. It was Kakashi's turn, but he was standing in the corner reading a perverted orange book, much to Kurenai's ire. A kunai sailed across the room that he caught with ease. He shut his book with one hand and took the center of the room. I suppose it's my turn. My team has excelled in every task and training I have subjected them to. They hold the current record for catching Tora the cat. Everyone shivered. That damn cat was a menace. Some say he's the descendant of the Two Tails, but no one can find any concrete proof. They tracked down and captured it in just 7 minutes. Their teamwork is so exceptional they can formulate and execute strategies with only hand signals. I would like to nominate them for a C-ranked mission. Immediately the Chunin and the other Jounin in the room shouted. There is no way they've gotten that far this quickly. You must be exaggerating things. Asuma called. It's much too early to trust them outside of the village. Are you truly prepared for the consequences of their failure? Kurenai argued. While I understand your faith in them, I have taught them all for years. I believe you are rushing things. They all got along in the academy, but for their teamwork to be that exceptional is simply impossible. Lord Third, I hope you can see our points in this. Iruka explained. The Hokage expected this and pulled out a stack of files. He handed one to each of the dissenters. Read and then see if your arguments are still valid. The looks of shock on their faces as they read further down really warmed the old man's heart. I see there are no further arguments. I approve of your request, Kakashi. Bring your team tomorrow for briefing. Kakashi nodded and moments later they were dismissed. Back to the present. Kakashi waited at Training Ground 7 for his team to arrive so he could take them to the Hokage. This was going to be great. With Team 7, Team 7 met with Kakashi after preparing for their first C-rank mission. They were heading to the Hokage Tower to meet their client now. Everyone was already mission ready, and with this team on this mission they had very little to worry themselves with. They entered the tower and Kakashi noticed the usual glares the blonde on his team was getting. Sasuke and Hinata noticed as well, but were already used to it. Naruto just continued walking with his head held high. They all made it to the Hokage's office and Naruto pushed the door open. When he did though, he was faced with a wave of killing intent. The whole of Team 7 just walked inside unbothered. Uzumaki, you'd think by now you'd have learned to mind your manners and knock. Danzo Shimura called out. The blonde grinned at the man and ignored him a moment later. Hey Gigi, I see you're entertaining another civilian again. I hope it wasn't too important. The killing intent in the room increased. That's impressive for a retired ninja. Wanna see mine? Naruto called only to be stopped by Sasuke and Hinata. They moved faster than two Genin should be able to and physically held the blood back. The hidden Anbu in the room were beyond confused. What the hell was this brat thinking? This was Danzo fucking Shimura, the Warhawk. Picking a fight with him even though he's retired most certainly meant death. Danzo, you're dismissed. I must speak with my ninja. Danzo grumbled and left the room, but not before he aimed a ridiculous amount of killing intent at the blonde. Only instead of getting him to cower in fear the blonde scoffed. Good try, maybe if you were still in your prime you might have made me sweat. Naruto taunted. He shut the door behind Danzo and the meeting began. That guy's such a dick. It's a wonder that anyone likes him at all. He smiled. I don't know many people who do. Now on to your mission. You'll be protecting a bridge builder from the land of waves. He's going to be here in a moment. Your mission will be transporting him back and protecting him and his family until the bridge is built. The Sandaime explained. The door swung open and a drunk stepped inside. Tazuna, perfect timing. This will be the team guarding you. Jounin Sensei Kakashi Hitake, and his Genin team Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha, and Hinata Hyuga. The bridge builder looked over them with worry in his eyes. Really? One real ninja and 3 brats? I thought Konoha was better than this. He complained. Naruto sent a knowing look to Kakashi and the rest of the team as well as a hand sign. They all nodded and Kakashi smiled at Tazuna. Well Tazuna, you should have nothing to worry about. My team is one of the best Genin squads in Konoha. The drunk rolled his eyes. Whatever, as long as I have the copy ninja with me I should be fine. Let's just get this over with. He huffed. The bridge builder walked out of the room and Team 7 followed. Though they lagged behind just out of earshot. What do you think, Naruto? The blonde glanced at the bridge builder's back. He undersold the mission. He was genuinely worried about having a squad of Genin as his personal guard. He thinks the level of danger would require more. Though we should be enough to handle most threats. Now this was what Kakashi was truly impressed by. Naruto's tactical and analytical mind was at least on par with anyone from the Nara clan. When his training first started he took a note from Asuma's book and taught the boy shogi. After the first month he never lost a game. He really was looking forward to getting his student and Asuma's into a game. Then I suppose we should continue the mission as is. Just do stay vigilant. We'll go with Maneuver F once we get clear of the village. Naruto, Sasuke and Hinata nodded and they caught up with their client and the rest of their team. It was a peaceful walk to the gate, or at least as peaceful as it could get with the blonde getting angry looks the whole time. Maybe it's something I'm wearing. Naruto mused. Damn kid, how the hell did you piss off all of these people? Are you sleeping with all of their daughters? Naruto chuckled at that, but stayed silent for a moment until he caught a kunai aimed at the back of his leg. Maybe if you told me your secret I might tell you mine, Naruto said with a grin never leaving his face. Tazuna shivered and tried to keep his stride. They made it to the gate with no more incidents and began signing out for long-distance travel. Kakashi left it to the Genin, and Naruto filled the form for the Jounin and the client. When everything was done and they walked out of the gate Kakashi spoke up. Team Maneuver F. Nothing else needed to be said. Naruto flashed away, Sasuke took point and Hinata positioned herself just in front of the bridge builder. Oi Copy Nin, what the hell is Maneuver F and where did Blondie go? Said Copy Nin looked at the man with an eye smile. Naruto is where he needs to be and it's just our guard formation. What the builder couldn't see was every dojutsu in the area was active and scanning the area. Nearly 5 hours into the journey just after noon, Sasuke made a subtle hand sign and everyone was alert and aware of a puddle on the road in front of them. Hinata, I don't suppose you brought an umbrella, I hear the land of waves is known for random storms? Sasuke questioned. Of course I did Sasuke. I packed 2 just in case. Okay then. If it does start raining I'll share with the bridge builder and you'll take point. Hinata nodded. They stepped over the puddle and as soon as Kakashi was over it he was wrapped in a chain and split in half. Immediately Sasuke took his place next to the bridge builder and Hinata moved forward. Their conversation from before was code to establish positions, the amount of enemies, and combat roles. 2 enemies in the puddle. Sasuke would be mid-range support and Hinata would be the close-range combat specialist. Wow, you'd think you'd get better protection from the Copy Nin. One of the next in line to take Konoha's hat. One of the ninja taunts. Seriously. If this is the best that village had we could have just killed him inside the walls and let them take the fall. The other laughed. Sasuke stood ready, a kunai in hand and a handful of shuriken in his other. Hinata fell into her juken stance ready to cause some severe pain. Kakashi, who was watching from a tree nearby, was impressed. He was ready to jump in at any time, but he doubted he needed to. An argument breaks out between the two attackers. "I want to kill the fresh little Jinan, you got to do it last time." The one with one horn on his head argued, "Bullshit, I did, you got the last 3 batches." The two-horned nin claimed. The one-horned ninja seemed to think over that for a second. "You know, that does sound familiar. Look, how about we settle this the usual way?" They both seem to agree on this. Seemingly in an instant they're both sitting down and playing rock paper scissors. Hinata and Sasuke didn't waste the opportunity. Hinata rushed forward toward one horn and caught the man off guard. Sasuke on the other hand charged his shuriken with lightning chakra and sent them toward two horns. This separated them and gave the Jinan the room they needed to work. "Oh, an impatient bunch." Two horns started. "Well then, I guess we'll split them this time." He turned to his brother only to see him struggling against the young girl. He didn't have time to do anything about it as an unnerving whistling made him dodge left. The charged shuriken that he thought he dodged before circled around. Two horns looked at the Jinan they came from and grinned under his mask. "Time to die, kid." He moved in for the kill. Sasuke flashed through some hand signs. Fire style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. Small balls of fire flew from his mouth and bared down on his attacker. The man was startled, but saw a gap in the technique. He charged through it and barely got through. Unfortunately, he was met by the kid weaving more signs. Fire style, Fireball Jutsu. Oh shit. The fireball sailed forward and two horns had nowhere to escape to. With Hinata, the Byakugan user was easily holding off the Chunin-level ninja. She was on the offensive and one horn was too surprised to fight back properly. She threw a Juken strike at the man's shoulder. The attack landed and his arm went limp. Only Kakashi saw exactly what happened. When she landed the strike, she curved her pulse of chakra down into his arm and closed off all of the tenketsu there. He was glad Naruto convinced him to teach the girl the Rasengan. "What the fuck, you little bitch? I'll kill you and enjoy your body when I'm done." Hinata remained firm in her stance and waited. The man lashed out with a chain from the gauntlet on the man's working arm in an attempt to end her, but she simply batted it away. He kept trying, using each attack to close the gap. He had no option but close combat. With one arm he couldn't make hand signs. He finally got close enough to do damage, but that meant she was in the same position. He swung a wide punch only to have the girl duck under and swing around behind him. She aimed a Juken strike at his chakra core with a lethal amount of chakra. The attack landed and immediately the man dropped dead. Blood leaked out of his mouth, nose, eyes and ears. Hinata shut her eyes and pushed down her nausea. Now was not the time. She looked towards Sasuke and saw him in a similar position. Back with Sasuke, the Uchiha knew right away his opponent replaced himself with a log out of harm's way. His blood boiled. "You made me burn the holy log. I'll make you bleed." Two horns charged again for what he thought was the kid's blind spot, hoping to kill the bridge builder and get away. Unfortunately, as he swung his hand to kill the man, it stopped inches away from the bridge builder. Two horns tried to retreat only to find his body couldn't move. What the hell? He looked down and found all of his limbs bound by ninja wire. He felt the tension of another strand wrapped around his neck. "It seems you're out of time. So tell me who sent you and I'll take you into Konoha custody." The enemy nin sneered at him. "You don't have the balls to kill me." Sasuke reached up and gently tugged on a strand of near-invisible wire. Blood trailed down Two Horn's neck. "Don't make me ask again. Fuck you." Sasuke simply gripped the wire tighter and pulled, severing the man's neck and removing his head. He held down his lunch, but it was a struggle with the blood spraying around him. Kakashi rejoined them in the clearing. The mood was somber, but they seemed to be doing well despite everything. "Okay, you two, I'm very impressed by your actions throughout this situation. Sasuke, your planning and sensory abilities saved yourself some time and effort in preparing. Your use of ninja wires has gotten better." He turned to Hinata. "As for you, your skill with your clan's techniques are exceptional. Your chakra slapping was precise as usual, and your decision-making made your fight quick. For both of you, this is your first kill. You live the life of a ninja, so don't beat yourself up over it." The two looked up at their teacher. "Yes, sensei." They called in unison. It took them a few minutes to get everything ready to leave. Sasuke piped up just before they left the clearing. "Shouldn't we prepare their bodies for transport? They might have bounties." He turned around only to find the bodies missing. "You don't need to worry about that. You'll both get the pay for a C-ranked bounty." Both Hinata and Sasuke were in a mild state of panic. They knew it had to be Naruto who did it. What scared them near senseless was they didn't detect him in the first place. They continued their walk in silence for a while, still on high alert. A single kunai flew through the air and Kakashi caught it simply. There was a note attached that he read and burned a moment later. "Sensei, is everything alright?" Hinata spoke up. The Jounin made a hand signal and the two Genin closed ranks around the bridge builder. We're going to stop here for a while and discuss something. Tazuna-san, please stand by while everything gets set up. We're going to head to a clearing a short trek away from the road." The Jonin nodded and began walking to the clearing with their client and finished the mission. When they got there, Naruto was sitting with a dozen clones hedged into Jounin and Anbu from the village. All of them were hidden in the woods until after the demon brothers were killed. The pair was surprised by his presence. "I sent 2 clones to drop off the bodies for the bounties. Lord Third should have them ready by the mission's end. I have another ready to go back to the village with a report on the increased mission difficulty. Should we abandon the liar to his devices, sensei?" Naruto reported. "Send the clone and wait for Sandaime's reply. For now we'll set up a temporary camp here. Naruto, I want you to be our scout, check the path ahead and around us." Sasuke, Hinata started setting up. "Don't use anything you can't pack up at a moment's notice. Keep alert, rookie ninja die all the time from letting their guard down when they think they're safe." Kakashi ordered. Naruto made 4 more clones and sent them off while his messenger clone used Hiraishin to get into the village. He would have an answer in no more than 10 minutes, but it would be a great training exercise for the others to set up and tear down camp in a hurry. He sat with the Tazuna and the man was terrified. Naruto began leaking a decent amount of killing intent, to keep any predators and bandits away from the camp. Within a few minutes camp was made and the other 2 Jonin joined Naruto at the center. "Naruto-kun, when combat started, weren't you supposed to join as support? It's how we've always dealt with Maneuver F." The blonde nodded and looked away from them both. "I was only going to interfere if either of you couldn't handle the fight. You both had to get your first kill in a somewhat controlled environment. This was the best chance. We don't know the situation going forward yet, but I'm guessing if this asshat lied about the mission to start with, it's not going to be fun." Naruto glared at the drunk who was on the verge of pissing himself. He got a bunch of memories and shook his head. The clones all looked toward the bridge builder simultaneously and one broke off to speak with Kakashi. "Kakashi-sensei, Sandaime is leaving the decision of the mission up to you, but he is approving the mission rank being raised to A at the bridge builder expense. If the mission continues, he'll also have to pay all of the penalties that come with lying on a mission request. How should we proceed?" The blonde's tone was cold and neutral. "We'll continue if the bridge builder accepts the new terms. If not, we can accept a B-rank mission to return him to the Hidden Leaf or leave him here." Naruto nodded and jumped into the tree line to leave the Jounin to speak with the client. "Tazuna, we need to discuss the parameters of the mission," Kakashi said on approach. Hours later, Team 7 and Tazuna the bridge builder were moving closer to the Land of Waves. Tazuna had accepted all of the penalties and the raise in mission rank. Though since then he'd been silent. Naruto was out of sight again as they traveled carefully. Everyone was on high alert and no one was talking. As they got closer to the water crossing, the mist in the area got a lot thicker. Kakashi was more than a little on edge about it, but kept his focus. The 2 visible Jonin began loading the boat with supplies when something cutting through the air caught Kakashi's ears. "Everyone get down!" The Jounin shouted. He ducked clear as a massive cleaver-shaped sword cut through where his head was a moment ago. "Secure the bridge builder," he ordered. A chuckle echoed through the now thinner mist and all eyes turned to the tree the sword was stuck in. Standing on the blade was a ninja in bingo books across the elemental nations. "Zabuza Momochi, I wasn't expecting to see you here." "Kakashi Hitake, it's good to see you again. How's that scar I gave you?" Kakashi I smiled in reply, "Just about as good as the one I gave you." "So what are the odds of us going our separate ways without one of us dying?" The other masked ninja just shrugged. "That depends. How likely are you to hand over your client without a fight?" He offered. "Well, it seems we're at an impasse. Maybe we can." Kakashi was interrupted by a certain blonde landing in between the masked nin. "I want that sword," he stated bluntly. Everyone's sweat dropped immediately. What was that, kid?" Zabuza asked. Naruto looked at him with serious eyes. "I want the sword. What do I have to do to get that sword?" Kakashi had seen this before and began stepping away from the blonde quickly. He thought he was going to have to fight Zabuza, but it seemed like that plan was deteriorating much too quickly. The Jounin shined over to the Jonin and bridge builder. "We need to get across the water now. It's gonna be pretty bad, if things go any further while we're here." There was a spike in killing intent from 2 separate sources. "Go now," he ordered. With Naruto a few moments earlier. "If you want my sword, kid, you have to kill me for it or win it in a fair duel. Kubikirabocho is mine and I'm not gonna give it up lightly." The blonde shrugged and fell into a fighting stance. "Might as well get this started then. Official duel or a fight to the death?" the Jonin asked. Zabuza laughed. "You've got spunk, kid. Tell you what, if you can make me unable to continue, surrender, or die, the sword is yours." With that he charged. He swung his weapon expecting to end the fight quickly. The attack seemed perfect until the blade shifted suddenly and careened off to the side. "I thought you were a master swordsman or something. That was a whiff if I've ever seen one," Naruto taunted. Zabuza charged again, swinging his blade in time with the blonde's movements. Naruto was truly having trouble keeping up with the ninja despite himself. Each attack cut into him in one way or another. He had light cuts all over himself before he could make distance. "Oh, where's that confidence you had before, kid?" Zabuza moved again. Swinging wide, Naruto tried to dodge into his guard only to receive a staggering kick to the side. The blonde tried to recover only to get smacked with the flat of his opponent's massive blade. Luckily he had enough time to cushion the blow with his foot using the blade as a springboard to make distance. "Good work, kid. I might not kill you after I beat you down." The missing nin flashed through hand signs that Naruto recognized. Water style, hidden mist jutsu. The mist grew thicker and Zabuza's presence completely vanished. "Okay kid, time to die." It was at that point Zabuza realized something. The blonde vanished as well. For those who don't know, the hidden mist jutsu acted twofold. It concealed the presence of the user with chakra-infused mist, but it also acted as its own sensory organ. Any disturbance told an experienced user exactly where his opponent is. For Zabuza though, he took it to a new level, making it a literal sensory organ. He could feel and manipulate the mist at will. The problem in this case was Naruto's own use of the jutsu as well as the silent killing technique. What Zabuza hadn't noticed during the fight was Naruto's clones hedged into things and lacing his own chakra mist into the air. So this is what this technique can really do. We're both flying blind here, but I have a distinct advantage. A kick came out of the mist that Zabuza barely had a chance to block. "I can feel your emotions. The hatred, rage, pain and betrayal that sits stewing under your skin. As long as you feel anything at all, I can find you," Naruto taunted, his voice echoing off the mist in every direction. Zabuza felt the cold chill of death creep up his spine and dodged as a kunai that shouldn't have been able to move that fast almost took his head off. Instinct and reflex was all he had to rely on at this point, and it was only just keeping him alive. Suddenly everything changed. Wind style, great vacuum emergence. A massive pulse of air pushed all of the mist out of the clearing, leaving Naruto and Zabuza facing each other. "How about we take off the kid gloves? I want you at your best." Zabuza growled and released his killing intent only to feel it matched by the Jinan. "Well, let's see how long you last, brat," Zabuza shouted. In an instant the missing nin was next to the blonde, bringing his massive blade in for the kill. Naruto rolled to the side and sent a kick at the demon of the mist's ribs. Zabuza, in what seemed to be an impossible move, blocked with a blade that just impacted the ground. The Jounin used the weapon as a pivot point and swung around for a devastating kick. It landed and the Naruto that was standing there exploded and launched him away. Zabuza flashed through some hand seals and 3 water clones appeared around where he landed. 5 Narutos came charging from the tree line at the demon and his clones. 6 kunai came ripping through the air behind Zabuza at the same time. Zabuza and his clones all made hand seals and 4 walls of water defended him on all sides. When the kunai were stopped, the swordsman charged toward the water faster than what though Naruto could intercept. He was wrong. The blonde burst from the ground in his path and landed a massive uppercut on the nin. Zabuza got his bearings quickly and slid under spinning kick aim to take his head off. Naruto got in close only to find Kubi Karabocho in the path of his attack. With a water clone approaching from behind, Naruto seemed to be in trouble. That was until a howl of pain ripped from Zabuza's throat as a kunai stuck into his foot. How the hell?" Naruto grinned. "You have a massive hole in your sword, what did you expect?" The Jounin sweat dropped. How had no one used that move before? Zabuza's rage finally hit him full force and it snapped something inside of him. A strong wave of chakra flowed out of him and he swung Kubi Karabocho from an impossible angle, catching the blonde off guard. He gripped the kid around his sword, ignoring how his own sword dug into his arms. "Fine kid, I wanted to make this fair, but I see I shouldn't have underestimated you." A clone was there in an instant and already down with the hand seals needed. Water style, water prison jutsu. The blonde was trapped completely in a dome of water too thick to allow him to move. He struggled, but no matter what he tried, nothing helped. "Time to die, brat," Zabuza exclaimed as he reared back his sword, ready to end this farce once and for all. Naruto had hoped he would win, but it didn't seem to be in the cards. It was time to face facts. He wasn't able to beat a Jounin without his more special tricks. It was a good thing he had a few trump cards to play. The blade cut into the sphere of water and stopped against something. Zabuza was growing tired of entertaining this child and put everything he had into that swing. That was why he was stunned when the sword didn't cut clean through. He looked into the water and was met with a pair of dark blue eyes, each with 3 tomoe. His sword was being held by the child, now wearing a pair of clawed gauntlets that unsettled the large man. A burst of chakra disrupted his water prison, and a single punch he could barely follow with his eyes sent him and his clone flying. It was only when he landed did he realize the blonde still had Kubi Kirabocho. With a maneuver that shouldn't be as easy as it was, the blonde launched the sword over to Zabuza. "I'm going to beat you now," the blonde said plainly. Not like a threat or a promise or anything that held emotional weight, but as if stating a fact. Zabuza felt his end coming and began to regret picking this fight. How was he to know a 12-year-old would be able to match and surpass him as such? 3 kunai ripped through the air and intercepted an equal number of senbon aimed at Zabuza. "Leave and I won't kill you. This fight is getting fun and I won't accept any interruptions," Naruto ordered with ice in his tone. A hunter nin appeared ready to fight. "I must apologize, but this man is my target and his death belongs." The hunter nin was interrupted by a wave of killing intent that nearly sent them to their knees. "His death is mine, as is his sword and bounty. Leave or you'll die as well." No change in his tone or mannerisms. He was going to end this. "Now come at me with all you have left, Zabuza, and die like a swordsman." The hunter nin gave up the charade and stood protectively in front of Zabuza. "You'll have to kill me first." The cold look in the blonde's eyes as he disappeared told the nin everything. The moment they had chosen to reveal themselves was the moment their fate was sealed. Naruto was next to Zabuza when an explosion of massive proportions went off. The Jonin had enough time to get clear before he took the brunt of it. When the dust cleared, Naruto was left alone with a mildly hollow victory and a hollow prize. This seemed to be a final solution of sorts. Zabuza would risk a self-destruct jutsu to save himself, but it seemed the nin hadn't had the time to collect his sword. Now Naruto had what he wanted, but he hadn't earned it. Not yet at least. The blonde strapped the weapon across his back and started walking in the direction of the land of waves, not stopping when he reached water. This was an utter disappointment. He didn't notice at the time a new voice in his head calling for blood. Elsewhere at the same time. "Goddamn brat, how could he have pushed me that far?" Zabuza raged as the hunter nin began nursing his wounds. "Haku, how long until I can fight at full strength again? I'm gonna kill that brat and get Kubi Kirabocho back." Haku removed the mask he was wearing and showed a face with very feminine features. "You should be back at 100% in a week, Lord Zabuza, but you'll need as much rest as possible." The missing nin sneered but accepted this. "Fine, a week's worth of healing and a week's worth of training should put me ahead of the brat. I'm gonna skin that little shit next I see him." With Team 7 and Tesna, "Kakashi-sensei, shouldn't you go back and help Naruto-kun? I know he's strong, but even still against a Jounin-level opponent, he might not survive." Hinata asked. "He might get upset at me for telling you this, but Naruto is a lot more than he seems. There's a reason I told you we should move ahead without him. If we would have stayed, you all would have been in danger if he lost it again." The Jounin explained. "What do you mean by that, sensei?" Sasuke asked. "To put it simply, Naruto is someone who chases his goals relentlessly. If faced with a challenge, he will find a way to surpass it no matter what it takes. His biggest trump card though, is very unstable. If he lost himself to it, he wouldn't be able to tell between friend and foe." Kakashi expressed. It wasn't entirely the truth, but it would keep them from asking questions about his nature until the blonde was ready to tell them. It made the Jounin remember the last time Naruto had to use the fox's power directly instead of combining their chakra. "The last time he faced an impossible task, when we found him he was in a bandit encampment surrounded by corpses and body parts. He was mostly unharmed except for severe chakra exhaustion and a missing finger that seemed to be self-inflicted." A terrifying silence fell over the group, each with different thoughts racing in their heads. Still they all came to the same conclusion. Just what is Naruto Uzumaki? The rest of the walk was entirely uneventful. Talking was kept to a minimum, and it wasn't until they made it to the bridge builder's home did Naruto show himself. All eyes went to him and saw the minor wounds on his person and the massive sword on his back. "Dobi. Did you really?" Naruto shook his head. "No, he had a phony hunter nin interfere so they could make an escape together. I almost had him, but he slipped through my fingers." The blonde seemed upset, and every ninja there knew him well enough to know why. Naruto is a man of his word above all else. If he gives his promise he will not break it. If he accepted a swordsman's challenge and it didn't end under the specific conditions set, it would be seen as a loss. More likely than not the Jonin would refuse to use the sword in combat until Zabuza was dead or admitted defeat. Sasuke stepped up and offered a fist bump to the blonde. Naruto chuckled and accepted the gesture. "Okay Dobi, since you have the thing, might as well learn to use it. We'll have a lot of free time over the next few weeks if what Kakashi says is true." Hinata stepped next to her crush and put a hand on his shoulder. "I'm glad you came back uninjured." A moment later she floored him with a punch to the head. If you ever worry me like that again, I'll use you as my Tenketsu body model again." Naruto wept from his position on the ground. "Why me, Lord, forgive my previous sins and grant me mercy from my torment." Everyone around sweat dropped and Kakashi tried not to laugh. Maybe we should get back to my place where we can discuss things," Tazuna offered. The group looked at the man and Naruto stood. "Lead the way then," Kakashi replied. They arrived at the house and the ninja looked over the place. "So Tazuna, where will we be staying while we protect you?" Kakashi asked. The bridge builder pointed at the house. "I have plenty of room here. Just keep your hands away from my daughter." Naruto rolled his eyes and walked over to the house and pushed the door open. Immediately he was pulled into a massive hug by a beautiful young woman. "Dad, welcome home." She stopped and began feeling the young man in her hold. "You're too ripped to be my dad." She pulled away to look at his face. "And you are way too handsome to be my dad. Mind telling me your name and why you're here?" A cold chill ran up everyone's spines at that moment. Fear gripped everyone as they turned to see a certain Hyuga with her dojutsu active as she slowly dropped into her Juken stance. No one wanted to move from fear of getting her off. Naruto simply flashed next to her and raised his hands. Her body twitched slightly, but she made no other notice of the boy's movement. "Hinata, it was an accident." She didn't mean anything by it. Her blank eyes turned and met his. He leaned down and whispered something. In an instant her face became bright red and she passed out. He caught her easily and walked into the house. "You guys coming or what? I already defused the Hinata bomb." Everyone's sweat dropped and followed the blonde into the room. "I don't get it. Sometimes he impresses me, sometimes I pity him, and other times I want to strangle him." Sasuke grumbled. Naruto set Hinata in a seat at the dining room table and took the seat next to her. The rest came to join them to discuss the security rotation and training schedule. They were all sure things wouldn't stay this peaceful for long. But the more information they had the better it would be in the long run. "So tell me how things got this bad," Kakashi requested. One long explanation later. So just to recap. This rich guy named Gato came in with smiles and good intentions, until he practically owned the land of waves. Then he cracked down, brought in the thugs and took over. Now he makes all of you pay insane taxes and if you don't you suddenly disappear. Hinata started. Tazuna and Tsunami just nodded. "And you undersold this mission because you couldn't come up with enough money for the A-rank fee," Sasuke continued. Tazuna looked away embarrassed. "So now your only option is finishing your bridge so you can become a major trade route and run Gato out of town. I can commend the thought process, though I do disapprove of underselling a mission that could have gotten any of the ninja in my care killed," Kakashi scolded. "Well, that only leaves one thing to discuss," Naruto began. Tazuna and Tsunami were on the edges of their seats. If these ninja left, their last chance at escaping this hell would leave with them. "Where can we train around here?" Naruto finished. Everyone in the room took this in and sweat dropped. This kid sure does know how to kill all of the tension in a room. Tazuna thought. The bridge builder couldn't help but laugh. "There's a nice secluded stretch of woods a quick jog north of here. I can show you in the morning." Naruto nodded and the discussion of guard rotation started. Naruto and Hinata will take the first rotation. From 7 until lunch. After lunch me and Sasuke will take over. Any time you aren't on guard can be spent training, but do be sure to rest. If anything happens you don't want to be fighting chakra exhaustion and another nin," Kakashi warned. The front door swung open and a kid no older than 10 walked through the door. He looked over the table and scoffed. "So instead of ninja you brought back a pack of kids. Wow, I feel safer already," the kid taunted. He started to walk away, but was stopped when a chill traveled up his spine. He turned slowly only to meet eyes with Naruto. He was frozen as the ninja's cool blue eyes met his deep black. "Who'd you lose?" were the only words out of Naruto's mouth. The child didn't know what to say. The tears came, but no words came with them. He wanted to run but his legs wouldn't carry him away. He was planted firmly on the ground. "I can't tell you how to mourn, or how to feel because I'll never know what you feel. Not completely anyway. Just don't drown in those feelings, kid. As long as you can keep moving there's hope," the blonde said simply. Naruto's gaze softened and the kid was finally able to move. He still didn't. He continued to stare at the ninja who had told him something he felt he needed to hear. He had a lot to think about. Naruto grinned and let the kid run off up the stairs. When the Jinchuriki finally turned around he was faced with a bunch of shocked looks and one very sad one. "Is there something on my face? Like that he did it again?" Any tension went out the window in an instant. "Seriously Dobi, you just keep surprising me." Naruto smirked and went back to his seat. "Well, I'm not Konoha's most unpredictable ninja for no reason." This pulled a laugh and set the mood for the rest of the night. Well, at least until everyone went to sleep. A few hours later, Naruto and Kakashi woke the other nin and brought them outside. There's been an update to our mission. Kakashi started before giving the floor to Naruto. After relaying a message to Lord Hokage, we've been ordered to eliminate Gato and all of his associates. This is to be done at our earliest convenience. I have already used my clones to scout the target's property. The blonde pulled out a meticulously drawn floor plan. I've mapped out all of the primary and secondary exit and entry points. All secret access tunnels were located as well. He's overconfident, he only has guards on the main property, none of the tunnel exits are guarded. A full-on assault would be the most effective way to win him and those who follow him. He explained. Are there any surprises to look out for? Hinata asked. Knowing Naruto-kun's luck, this will either be just as easy as we expect, or so disproportionately hard that if and when we do finish this mission we'll be legends in this region forever. If I had to guess, after Gato sees what happened to Zabuza, he'll probably order a couple ninja from one of the villages for some help. I'd have to guess they'll be special jounin ranks at the lowest. Sasuke looked mildly worried. Do you think we'll be ready for that? Even with all of our training, I'm pretty sure it would take me and Hinata to take on one. Kakashi's looked at them. You aren't yet, but you will be. Naruto, you'll be guarding the bridge builder alone in the morning. I was going to have you show Hinata how to get better control of her elemental chakra. Instead I'll be working with them both on the jutsu I gave you, increasing your reserves and control. Kakashi instructed. Are you going to be okay all by yourself, Tobi? I'd hate for you to get lonely out there, Sasuke teased. The blonde put on his best depressed face. Kakashi-sensei, don't leave me alone. Please at least let me have my Sasuke-kun, Naruto said in his best fangirl impersonation. A visible shiver crawled through Sasuke as he stepped away. Okay, point taken, I'm sorry. Naruto nodded. No big deal, team, this mission has given me plenty of blackmail material. If you step out of line, I'll start selling them to the fangirls in the village. Sasuke appeared in the corner in the fetal position, rocking himself back and forth. No, please, no more fangirl raids. The last time Sakura and Ino nearly took the underwear I had on for a trophy. Naruto nodded once. I'm just kidding, team, they couldn't afford my prices anyway. The Uchiha looked up at him and calmed down. Sasuke seemed to calm down a fraction, but the idea of Naruto selling pictures of him for petty revenge sparked something in him. This would be the beginning of a lifelong prank war. Naruto-kun, where'd you put that massive sword? Hinata questioned. The Jinchuriki flipped over his palm and a seal was painted on. He made the half-tiger sign and the massive sword appeared in a puff of smoke. It's just a stopgap measure until I can write up a full, more permanent seal. He explained. There were so many questions, but neither of the Genin felt like bringing any of them up. We'll discuss this further in the morning, get some rest. Training starts at 7. With that, Naruto and Kakashi disappeared, leaving the other two to get into the house silently. That's the end, guys. If you enjoyed, then make sure to leave a comment. This is Chaos Shinobi signing off.